Good viewer. Watch Xirtus. Watch Xirtus.
Welcome everybody. This is NEUROPA, rien ne va plus. All bets are off. Welcome Andreas. Welcome everyone.
I'm sorry. I just hadn't heard that song yet. I thought that was pretty good. Like that was pretty sweet. Like good viewer, watch Xirtus. Like everything about that was well done, sir. Like
oh yeah, this is I made the track some time ago. We used it on the show, and Jose of @Xirtus Amoeba did this really cool edit. Perfect as usual. So I had to bring it on.
We love Xirtus Amoeba. Jose, shout out to you, my dear friend. You're doing incredible stuff. We love you. We love what you do. And we love you as a person as well. We're going to have to get together pretty soon. I want to invite you, as we're starting this, to another NEUROPA stream. Let's get Raf and Jose from Xirtus Amoeba together, like maybe next week. That'll be, or the week after. I don't know, whenever you feel like it. It's up to you. But also, I wanted to say, we have goals. You know, I've got goals, right? Just set up this cool thing that Raf showed me. Let me see if I can pull it up here. It's a top chat goal. Did I get it? There it is right there. So the deal here is we got a goal for the rest of the stream, 10 yellow super chats. I never did this before. I never knew you could do this. This is a great thing to do. If you give me some gold, right? Some gold, some geld, we'll get some gold super chats, 10 of them. And I will make your dreams come true. At very least, I will go visit Raf. I'm not sure if that's your dream, but it's mine. I'm about to get on a train, head my way towards Wien. You might call it Vienna because of the Italians, but don't worry about it. It is in Austria, and we will hang out together. We're going to do not only all the amazing things there do in Austria, and I'm not talking about drugs. I'm talking about the statue of Willendorf in the museum, but also we'll see about doing a Team Rabbit Hole with Jim Kincaid, amongst other things. So very exciting. I hope that you take the time to consider it. Novice Gnostic Music, thanks for being here. Tracy Gorham, hello, lovely. Real Rye or Die, put it on red. Yeah, if you want to do a red super chat, that's great. We had a red super chat yesterday, and that made me halfway to my goal.
I think he's talking about the casino bets, but sure, make it red.
It's all, hey, if you want to make a red super chat, that's a good deal right there. It's a little bit higher tier. You know what I'm saying? If you do the super chats, let me just show you how that works here. You can change the colors. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Red's 100. So yeah, if you feel like that, that's awesome. If you do help you understand not only is it saving money for us on our interaction together, the fact that I'll be able to go to Vienna on a train and get back, because I paid for my way there. I haven't paid for my way back yet. That's a big thing. But also it'll make it possible for me to understand what exactly you want to see in these streams and these shows. So we'll work on kind of fulfilling your desires, right? That sounds pretty cool. Are we twinning right now? Do you see this? Look at Raph and I.
Yeah. It's the deliberate. I was like, it's a casino stream, so I'm putting on a nice shirt.
Is that what we do? That's pretty cool. I love twinning. Twinning is such a weird cultural phenomenon. Do you guys have that in West Hollywood in June? So, like, I mean, happy Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. But there is this fashionable. There's something called twinning. I don't know if you've heard of twinning, but it's like where a man and another man, or a woman and another woman, love each other, and they put on the same clothes. You know what I'm saying? Or like 3 guys do it because they love Eminem so hard that they end up dressing like him and wearing Abercrombie and Fitch. So look, I mean, twinning, bro. We're twinning super hard right now. Yeah. Kind of base. All right. I don't know if that was what you were going for. I wasn't necessarily, but hey, here we are. We look pretty cool. Well, all right. Wait, first, let me ask Raph, how are you doing before I pull up the links this week? What have you been up to?
Yeah, thank you. I'm doing fine. I guess nothing too special to report, except that, as you already said, Andreas is coming to visit soon. So we'll do some more fun things. Maybe make some fun posts. We'll see.
I'm gonna make you go to the museum. Oh, boom! First one.
Oh, wow.
Sparrow Nose is one of my favorite people. Hug Raph for me. All right, I will. I will totally hug Raph for you. If you don't. Red super chats might get weirder, but for the yellow, a hug is fine. No, I'm just kidding. Sparrow Nose, one of my favorite fans. I know that's like the way it's supposed to work the other way around, but I love certain fans more than others. I you know, she's a special one. And we're gonna do an Owen Benjamin stream pretty soon. Owen Benjamin reached back out to me so that we can do another show just because Sparrow reached out to Owen Benjamin. And he hit me up. So, I mean, great, because he's been busy and I haven't really set that up until I was like, hey, you know, if you have time, I mean, we're always busy. We don't do this stuff. So really appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's one right there. Okay, cool. So if you go to Raphael Comenci.at, you can find your way to our stream for the week where we talk about gambling, apparently. And this is the log for today. Let's, what, you want to open up the first one? Do you want to talk about the Team Rabbit Hole stream?
Yeah, so PSA, we don't really talk much about gambling, but I was more like, what other way could I put this? Like the system is rigged or whatever else. So, but yeah.
Poetic. Okay.
You know.
Well, you did do a stream with Jim recently, and that's what I was saying. So we're gonna do one soon. So
this is actually from the live stream. Oh, what's going on?
I saw this one. Sorry, I was like, I wasn't sure what you were gonna bring up, but Michael.
Okay, great.
I love Zin. Follow him now, mainly because of you guys. And Zin did an interview with Jim. It's like kind of a reverse thing that went on here. This was a really fun stream. This was holy cow. We're already doing. You know what? Who doesn't love the fans? Who doesn't love the fans? Real ride or die. I'm super here. This is exactly. Put it on the red. Oh, you're a good person. You're a good person. Thank you very much. Now that's 2. That's 2. We're not doing math right now. It's not halfway there, but it's you're further towards the halfway, and that makes me feel good.
Didn't expect the grift to be so successful so quickly, but I think it's amazing. So
that's a tasty grift.
Well, maybe this is just what happens when you are clear about having your goals set right.
2 hugs for Raph. What are your goals? These are your 3. Oh my God, they're really. You guys are rad. Tracy, you're rad. Know what, Tracy? I'm hyper energy right now because I'm really excited both to be here with you all, but that I'm going to go to Vienna. I love Vienna. It's like Vienna's like it's one of my favorite places in the world. So, and like that Raph lives there and that we're going to get to go see all kinds of cool things. We recorded the cathedral last time. I like I said, I really want to take Raph to this museum that has the statue of Willendorf. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? The statue of Willendorf? It's like the Lizzo of ancient Austria. You know what I'm saying? It's a big old girl. The big old girl. She's like, bing, boom, 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 boom. That's what we're going to go see. We're going to go see the statue of Waldorf. This is a 30,000-year-old statue of a big old girl. You know what I mean? And like, this is the goddess. This is the fertility statue. You might think that it would have been like some like anorexic transgender shtick, but no. Like old timey people used to worship the hips. They thought that the big wide woman was the way to go. So yeah. Old world Nick Mac says that's my kind of woman. Based. Well, that's Ace of Based. We're gonna definitely go see that now. So look at this. We're triple nipple right now with the 3 yellows. So that's pretty good. Okay.
All that she wants.
You know what? Do you know Ace of Base? Secret Nazi Past? Are we gonna get in trouble for that? Like, if you ever watched I Saw the Sign and realized that the sign was the swap. Yeah, there's a whole thing there. I wasn't the point I was making, but since you bring it up, I just thought you all should know. You know what I mean? Because I just try to like educate people. However, Michael Zinn, one of my favorite people. I would love to get him on NEUROPA at some point. I love that you guys did an interview with him on Team Rabbit Hole, but this kind of like baptized me, John the Baptist, I'm your Christ thing that Michael Zinn did with Jim is really cool. It was really interesting because Jim, he acts like he's an interviewer. He's really an interviewee. I'm not saying he's not an interviewer, but he's a really great person to interview because he has a lot. He has a lot to say.
Oh yeah, that much is for sure.
I love Jim. Okay.
No, it's great, and I just wanted to point out because Michael Zinn does really cool streams like every week called the Live Stream of Consciousness, and yeah, he had Jim on I think even twice in that week because he has like 2 types of shows from what I gathered. And yeah, just wanted to give him a shout out and everyone who wants to listen to Jim talk, not only when he's supposed to interview someone, but actually being the interviewee, then you can go watch these streams.
Dude, you got some new ones coming up. Let's all do me a favor by doing my friends a favor. Let's do a follow for TLOC. Check out the live stream. This is pretty great stuff. Zinn's great. Let's reach out to let's reach out to him and do a show with him soon. He's one of my favorite people. I hadn't actually interacted with him, so that's a bucket list goal for me. Okay, so Miyazaki, you wanted to talk about Miyazaki and solar punk? What's going on here?
Yeah, the only reason I bring this up because I know that you'll be totally into solar punk. Of course, this kind of reminds me of the whole techno utopianism, techno-Gaianism, right? And I just found it interesting that Arte, this German-French cultural channel, made a specific short segment on solar punk. And the question here, it says, from Miyazaki to the real world, can solar punk even surpass the fiction of solar punk? And I'd claim it certainly could, even without the AI images. But of course, all depends on where we're going to take the technology. But main point was just to have you talk about solar punk, basically.
I mean, I'll try not to go super hard. I know I could really fast. There's diesel punk. There's I love diesel punk too because that's like World War II style. And there's atom punk, and atomic punk is really atom punk is the closest thing to solar punk that you can get besides solar punk itself. But solar punk is this kind of organic thing. And I mean, Maitland, you're probably watching right now. I hope you are if you've been paying attention. Shout out to Maitland. He's a buddy. We just showed his Wubakia video recently. But the other day, someone was talking about Dragon Ball Z, and I wanted to bring it up because, one of my favorite things is Lensman, and Lensman's this anime I've really been pushing you guys to watch this anime. It's this crazy, originally CIA cyberpunk book series from the 50s from D.F. Jones, and they couldn't get it produced into a live action movie ever. So they finally said, hey, we'll make a cartoon. And at the time, you could get cartoons in Asia cheaper. But it was more anime. Some of the first amazing, like, computer generated special effects that you've ever seen. But it also had the work of Katsuyoshi Nakatsuro and I don't know, some other Toei guys, right? Well, if you've ever seen like Toei style, and you can see like this is Lensman's actually where Green Lantern comes from. Lantern and Titan AE. There's several major works besides Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball that are inspired by this. But the the Toei animators and the team that worked on Lensman, you know, this is like it's a forgotten amazing anime, but it has all of the people that ended up working on this went to work on Dragon Ball. And so you can see Master Roshi and all these different characters that kind of like happen in the future of anime. They all happened in Lensman. Lensman is all of it. It's cyberpunk, it's atom punk, but it's super solar punk. Particularly at the very beginning of it, I wanted to see if I could find, you know, you can, I think you get the whole movie, but don't watch it until I upload it, right? It starts up with people in a field working in these giant monocrop agriculture fields, and they have a bunch of solar punk technology that are working together for the purpose of, you know, they're like farmers, right? And so that's the major reason why solar punk is so popular, because you could be using diesel, but all the diesel is destroying the environment because it's this weird liposuction of the Earth's natural fats. You could be using atom punk. Atom punk was particularly popular, but it was conflicting with the oil propaganda. These petroleum companies were working to destroy. They didn't want people to love atom punk, the idea of atomic power, right? And so eventually you ended up with solar punk, which is ironic in a weird way. I think this actually relates to a conversation I had yesterday on APM talking about organic trad, because organic is trad, right? At a certain point, we all think of ourselves as being interested in nuclear technology and science, and you know, but the thing is, junk food, I would say, is associated with vaccines on this level. The idea that you could believe in McDonald's, you could believe in the military industrial complex to provide you with healthier food, that somehow eating nutritional supplements, like all these additives, nutritional additives that they put, like, hey, we're going to add fluoride to your water, it'll make your teeth better. We're going to add, you know, vitamins to your milk, it'll make your milk better. We're going to add, you know, nutrition to your McDonald's food, whatever. That whole thing is the idea that science is going to progress reality better. And that kind of died off, right, at the beginning of the 21st century. There, I mean, you can remember everyone having green and blue and yellow and crimson and tangerine hair in 1999 during the Marilyn Manson apocalyptic Antichrist concert period, to the iPod, which was this sort of Kubrickian 2001 A Space Odyssey period, the white iPod, and then into organic. And then organic comes with solar punk. And solar punk really sprouted with this idea that we could actually just get the energy that already exists, right? That's the point of solar punk, is that there's energy everywhere ambiently already. And this isn't originally from 2001. There were already people making photovoltaic cells back in the 30s, but there was a push that believed, hey, biomimicry. And I think biomimicry is associated with this. Why are we trying to build something better than a tree? Isn't a palm tree the best photovoltaic solar panel cell? Do you really want to try to make a black monolith that's better than a palm tree? That's where solar punk really emerges, because it's biopunk, right? And you can see this is the future that we might have. The future is the past. This ties into Tartaria, the idea that the future is the past. We're outside of time, and that natural time is something that we should experience. I don't know if that's where you were going with it. That's my rant.
That's good. I'll leave it at that. No, but biomimicry is where it's at, and I'm always astounded when they come along, supposedly in China or wherever. Either they want to paint the trees green or they want to create artificial bees. I'm not sure if that's just psyop propaganda, but it's obviously beyond retarded in my book. But all right.
Trying to make artificial bees is a weird step towards solar punk, in my opinion. Here's why. Because instead of trying to make something better than bees, you're trying to make bees. You know, like if someone says, hey, I can make a wheel is already a combat, an argument against the leg. You know, a cheetah runs super fast, but it's still running like 40 kilometers an hour or something, 30 kilometers an hour. It's not as fast as a car. You know what I mean? That's like 18 miles. So if you're going to get a car with the wheels spinning, there's not a lot of animals besides like a cephalopod. I think squid can do this cool thing where they bend their legs. I don't know if you've seen that, where they emulate wheels. So there's definitely these things in nature that are better than the wheel. But the wheel is better than a lot of things that we interact with in nature, except it requires so much to have. People always say, why didn't the Mayans, why didn't the Aborigines in America or Australia, or why didn't the Africans use the wheel? You know, well, the wheel comes with complex. You need to have roads. If you don't have a road, you can't have a wheel. It's not really practical. It's actually way more practical to have a horse. And even a horse, you're like putting boots on and everything. A camel, you know, you want to have a camel that can deal with like mud and desert and everything. So there's a reason for everything the way it is in nature. It's been tested, but we're dealing with this idea of singularity, emergent singularity, because you have billions. I mean, again, I don't know how much I believe this. This is just something they taught me in school. I'm going to have to wrestle with this with you, but there's billions of years of evolution, hypothetically, that go into scale. We start with billions of years of evolution to get to a what do you call that single-celled organism? Paramecium. Is that right?
I'm not the specific one. I don't know. Some type of amoeba, I guess, but I don't.
I'm gonna say paramecium, right? That's the one I was gonna go with. Paramecium. It's like a kind of a eukaryotic little guy there, you know. So imagine this guy, right? It took billions of years, but then from here from a paramecium into a multicellular string is like, you know, from like billions of years to a billion years, and then from a paramecium to a single-celled string to a complex organism, a eukaryotic complex organism, that's only like half a billion years. And then there's millions of years, like hundreds of millions of years. But then it scales even further, because to get to a human, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of years. But then again, I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying this is what they teach you at Scholastic Magazine when you're in 3rd grade. From hundreds of thousands of years to tens of thousands of years to build your personhood, right? Your civilization to a Homo sapien. But Homo sapien to, you know, modern I wouldn't say modern Homo sapien, maybe a modern civilized Homo sapien, that's 6,000 years. So from billions of years to hundreds of millions of years to millions of years to hundreds of thousands of years to tens of thousands of years to thousands of years. Then you have science. Science is 600 years, half a thousand years, right? So half a thousand years to the last 100 years. 100 years is the 20th century of civilization, but 20th century of civilization is just the Industrial Revolution. That doesn't really count. We have to talk about the last 20 years, because maybe the last 40 years, maybe 40 years, you have computer technology, the technological revolution, but then you only in the last 10 years have the evolution of service economy. So there's a telescopic nature of evolution. It might not be true, but it's an interesting idea. This idea that things took a long time, now they take a shorter period of time. And very soon that would say things are going to take not billions of years or thousands of years or years even at all. It might take months. It might take weeks. It might take days. It might take minutes. It might be upload speeds. It might be instantaneity. And once you get to instantaneity, you have the singularity. So the singularity is something that you're wrestling with when you're talking about solar punk versus atom punk. Are you talking about the tradition? Because evolution was cold and sterile, and it had this idea of death and survival of death, and anything that could survive beyond death. You know, for instance, trad families. Trad families are something that we think of as really essential and important. Why? Because evolution's so cold. It's so brutal. But if things are super quick, then we might move beyond that into cloning, replication, future transhumanism, I think is like a major point here. And then you have the idea of not surviving struggle, but achieving goals. This is something that's only possible in a shorter period of time. So biomimicry becomes something that you wrestle with, because do we really need legs? Do we really need wings? Maybe we're better off with wheels and jets, right? And what happens when you look at the focused futuristic point of evolution? Well, you compare that to the most. They're like, really? Do we need to let him have internet for this? They glitched me for a second. I'm just saying the squid is the answer, because the most futuristic goal that humans can achieve is very similar to the squid. Hey, and the sperm. I mean, the sperm and the egg, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Clearly the egg, right? So the egg has this idea of perfection that's refined, and we have to wrestle with tradition versus modernity. And that's kind of what I was trying to say about atom punk versus solar punk. Fair enough.
Thank you for that essay. So in terms of evolution, the one thing I recently picked up again, because obviously if you put things on such a large time scale, of course you could imagine anything to occur through randomness or whatever else if you want to believe it. What I find more interesting is the investigation into the Neanderthals, where also I don't know how much of that science really is actually settled or how clear these distinctions are. But this is something where, at least supposedly, they found the remnants. I think they even played around with the DNA. And I find that very interesting in terms of what are the capacities potentially that were lost by having the Neanderthals, if they were a real thing, bred out. Or is it basically like, you know, not to, how should I say, throw shade on the CCP, but just like with the Han Chinese or whatever, you have a population replace something else. What is the thing that you lost, both in terms of culture and in terms of biology potentially as well? Or what genes are being suppressed, or are they maybe latent? You know, of course, can only speculate on this, but where does for example, any degree of psychic ability or telepathy, even if it's just, you know, oh, I thought of someone and they were calling me, is this a Neanderthal remnant? Are the Homo sapiens really more apt with tools? What about being able to shoot at a distance? I think there's these things like supposedly Homo sapiens being better at throwing stuff than Neanderthals or stuff like that. I don't know enough about it, but that's something I would investigate first, because it seems a little bit closer in time, because with the billions of years, of course, it's very difficult to discern anything.
Yeah, and I would say that there's probably something out of time. You know, like my Jesuit training would say, the omega point is something outside of time that's at the omega, but probably also at the alpha. And this would concur with what Countryside Mongoose is saying, that sperm is a single cell, and yet it develops in 9 months, not 9 million years. So, I mean, creationism. To me, there's really no evolution without creationism, but there's no creationism without evolution too, because there's some sort of pathos that we're experiencing there. One to quickly shout out Maitland. I saw a video where some scientists built a mechanical bee hooked to an AI LLM. I love that video. By the way, if you find it again, Maitland, send it in the think tank group. I'm going to share that with them. That's a really fascinating video. They could actually talk to a real beehive using bee twerking language. What he means by that is that the bees actually do a sort of dance to communicate. It's absolutely fascinating work. Bees definitely twerk. Yeah, I mean, that's a way to look. I would say that's a black and yellow, and give directions. Like there are nectar-full flowers 100 meters to the north. The bees will go collect the nectar. It's because a bee will explain to the other bees. There's no question that bees are communicating with other bees. They have a sophisticated hierarchy. It's worth exploring.
So maybe that's why twerking was popularized, because of course you are more than anyone aware of this whole, however we call it, Masonic
insectoid hive mind reality.
Fleur de lis, that also, and the symbolism, you know, having the beehives, you have them on some of the buildings in Austria even as a symbol. And then I guess,
and
you know,
Utah.
I always want to see these background meetings when someone is like, oh, well, what is the next joke we can play on the population? Well, anyhow, we think they're bees here to collect our honey. Let's all make them twerk like bees, you know? And 5 years later, you have all these songs and everyone in the club or at the party is twerking.
Plus, they have a bee movie. Have you seen a bee movie in the Masonic symbolism?
No.
Okay, so there's a movie with Nick Cage called A Bee Movie. And let me just pull up, just because you said that, I have to pull it up here. I don't even know where to go with this. The grandma, I don't even, grandma chair. I'll have to look for it to show it to you. Is this not the right movie? What's the other, like, Nick Cage bee movie? Is that what it's called? It's a bee movie. Yeah. Okay. So in a bee movie, I'm sorry I can't find it now, but there's a big sync here. I might have to do this for Sync Tank. Not the bees, Wickerman, everything else, but there's a scene. There's like 6 scenes in a bee movie where they have the grandma. Hold on. Do I type grandma? Like, what's it gonna take? Grandma chair. I don't know. I'll have to look for it. I feel bad that I can't find it right now. Basically, the whole movie's filled with Masonic symbolism are everywhere. I promise you, by Tuesday, I'll have the links to show you all of that to corroborate that. But a B movie is one of the most Masonic films. Of course, I mean, how could it not be a B? Of course. Okay, so we're gonna go back. We're gonna show some of the
To be
other
or not
links
to
here.
be.
To be or not to be. Oh, you had to do it, didn't you? By the way, if you're just joining us now, I see that there are more people joining the room. We have a goal. We have a goal today. We're doing this sort of look for the amount of 10 super chats in the yellow so that we can do this trip that we're doing. I'm going to see Raf in Vienna. So far, we have 3. Sparrow sent me hug Raf for me as her dream. If you decide you want to support the channel, let me click on this. It's not letting me change my thing. There you go. You can see here we have the 3 out of 10 super chat goals right here. So we're looking for 7 more super chat goals. If you do this, I will make your dreams come true. But really, you'll be making my dreams come true. Because
Full
I'll be able to
disclosure.
visit. Yeah, I'll be able to visit Raf. So one of the goals was to hug Raf. The second was 2 hugs for Raf, which is like, I guess 3 if you count them up. And then that you guys are rad, which like, I guess we already achieved that goal. Is that kind of the point? Was it the Ants movie? No. So there's the Bugs Life. There's Ants. There's a bee movie. Oh, movies, CGI movies about bees. I'm pretty sure 2007, right? Yeah, 2007, a B movie. 2007 B movie Illuminati. Do I have to type it like that? Is that the way it's going to happen? I'm just saying, if you can help us out and make sure that we can buy tickets so I can go to Vienna, set up a super chat right now, and whatever your goal is will be included. Old lady? How about like old lady in chair? Nothing? Do other people not know this? Is that like, that's what's scary to me, is I'll know this. I'll go through my life assuming others do. I'll look it up and then it's not public knowledge. Like they didn't
I'll
even
let you look at this for 2 more minutes. I'll be right back.
All right, hold on. This makes me feel. Where do I even go to start archive B movie? Is this going to be a thing right here? Yeah, look like it. All right. We're doing it. We're doing it for a second here. Send super chats while I try to find in a B movie the shot list. Come on now. Is there going to be a link here? Nothing. This is terrible. B movie scene grandma? It's got to be in chair. Rocking chair? Raph went off to the bathroom for a moment. I was just hoping to find... Look at how crazy the B movie is. The old lady goes to sleep. Sorry, I can't find it for you now. I'm going to have to literally... This is the problem. I'm going to have to literally go through the entire B movie from 2007 with Nick Cage in order to find the scenes that show Freemason symbols. But if you super chat me, it's worth my time. You know what I mean? Because then I can go visit Raph. So it'll be one of those things. Okay, Raph's back. So going to current. We're going to do current. Let's do the first thing, which is, this is the first thing. This is Donald Trump and the Alcatraz prison escape hoax.
Yeah, so I honestly have never looked at this at all, but anytime I stumble across something which is a commonly held belief and someone claims that maybe it's not exactly as they claim it is, I like to check it out. Have you ever looked into this Alcatraz things? Because apparently they tied together 100 raincoats and they had a workshop inside the prison and all kinds of things. I mean, if you can believe it, you can believe it. And why is this guy putting this out right now? It's because Trump claims or said that he will reopen Alcatraz. I'm not sure for what, and if that's just another type of signaling or something, but I found it interesting to point out.
So I don't know what to tell you. 1962, right? So there were, first off, let's say Alcatraz was built to get mafia people away from these colonies that they built. So America was a bunch of territories and colonies. You had New English colonies. These were the socially accepted ones that the CIA come out of. Protestant psychopaths, right? The white Anglo wasps, right? I mean, we're talking about bees and we're going to talk about wasps now. That's pretty funny. But there was a push like after and I would like to say, I think the mafia, like calling the Italians and Sicilians the mafia. I'm not part of the Italian Defamation League or anything, but it's super racist, right? To pretend that the CIA are ethical and that Protestant Anglo-Saxon psychopaths are ethical, but to say that, you know, Al Capone's soup kitchen is during the Prohibition, during the Great Depression, hey, Kalex, I see you, baby. Because I have nothing better to do. Look at you. Like, this is nihilism and existentialism married together. I love you. I love you. I have deep love for you, Kalex. You're one of my favorite people.
Thank you.
You're one of my favorite fans, you know? So yeah, this is already, now we're at 4. We're 4 out of 10. This is huge. This is huge news. I'm going to Vienna. Sweet work. Sweet work, everybody. So the WASP are not to me any more ethical than the mafia. And we've talked about the mafia before. You can see my Leo Zagami movies, podcast interviews, one of them talking about the propaganda duo. Originally, they were building colonies too. New Orleans was the Sicilian colony. If Jamestown is an English colony, then New Orleans is a Sicilian colony, not a French one. It's a Sicilian one. There are Arcadians that filled it up, but I would say Arcadians were more prevalent in Louisiana in the next century, right? So, oh boy, is this count? I think it's yellow. Post send in 100. Slack for life. We're at 5 out of 5. It was like 10, 5, 10. We're halfway there.
Is this
we were saying
Norwegian crowns?
I believe it's Norwegian
Krona?
crowns. Yeah. Which to me is actually slightly cooler in a weird way.
Yeah. It sounds more valuable.
I'm excited. Okay, that's 5 out of 10. We need 5 more, and it's gonna be great. Kalex, yeah, no, I wasn't kidding. You're a special person to me. I choose you, Pikachu. Okay, so mafia people, the jizya tax, as you know, the Arabs, the mafia were the mafit. We've talked about this before, that they were collecting taxes after the fall of the Cordoba Caliphate. The Jesuits and the Catholics continued to control the Italian church, and the Italians were then under the control of the mafia because they were always under the control of the mafia. Then they moved to America and they continued their tradition. That's all there really is to it. So this leads to Alcatraz. Why? Because Al Capone was arrested for income tax violation. Oh my God, you guys just won't stop. Another yellow, 6 out of 10. Not joking. Coffee and a hug for me. Do you think I need coffee? This is me without coffee, just so you know. Are you sure? All right, I'll drink a coffee if you really want to, but I better film it. Makes the world go flat. That's based. That's super based. Okay, we're 4 left. 4 of these.
Only for random sync, since you're on a roll anyways. Does this whole thing you just mentioned with the mafia have anything to do with Moffett Federal Airfield Base? Just because the name reminded me of it.
I never in my life, I mean, I've been to Moffett Field a dozen bazillion times, right? Because that's like close to my house. My grandfather, Lockheed NASA, worked at Moffett Field. NASA's big air hangar is at Moffett Field. I never would have thought that before. I mean, it's definitely an interesting sync because you say it the same way, and there's a lot of connection. The Croatians, Italians, and the Sicilians are all very tied to the Mafia.
And just like I said last time, what someone brought up to me is the idea of why does Alan Dulles sound like Al-Andalus, right? The CIA director, and it sounds like the, you know, whatever old
that's kind
area
of beautiful.
in Spain.
Some props. Yeah, Spain. And I know I was just thinking about this, that Mind Unveiled finally did the videos talking about the exploration that I did, in 2019 before COVID, where I went to Spain and we looked at all the super Tartarian architecture, because like that's the murder of the Tartarian Empire right there. Spain is the thing. But okay, We were trying to talk about Alcatraz. The point being, the IRS had the jizya on the mafia. You have to imagine how crazy this really is when you think about it. The mafia, who protect people by taking a tax, were then taxed themselves by the IRS. This idea is deep. This is super deep, because what you're saying is you have the right of Melchizedek. Okay, so Melchizedek in the Bible is the person who has the right to take. Oh, I just broke. I don't know if you heard that. Melchizedek has the right to take taxes. So,
Yes.
oh man, Maurice, we're 7 out of 10. Africas.
Africast.
Africas. Okay,
My
well, that's your
favorite
dream.
show on Xirtus Network.
I mean, that's done. If you want that, we're doing another Africast. I'll get Ibiza back just for an Africa. I love Ibiza. He's one of my favorite people. This is perfect. I think we're winning the culture war. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my holy fanatical lord.
The
8 out of
floodgates
10.
are open.
8 out of 10. This is the way to do it. Have always enjoyed your content. A small token of appreciation. Your small token of appreciation is a Willy Wonka gold ticket for me to Austria. I'm all about it. So thank you very much.
I want to say, like, every super chat you guys are doing, you're like increasing the stream's revenue by about 100% each. So thank you very much.
I hate to be honest with you. No, this is huge, dude. And then Calyx gave me 30K. 30K credits in Star Wars tokens. That's $30. So I'm pretty excited.
Whoa, Star Wars tokens. Just tell me what that
credits.
is.
Well, credits in the Galactic Coruscant Federal Republic. They use credit system. Calyx knows instantly. You know, he's all about it. That's cool. Anytime we can hear from Ibiza, he's gonna love to hear that. He doesn't know how much you guys appreciate him, dude. For sure. I just talked to him the other day. He's alive. He's well. He's been through a lot. He's been through a lot recently. There was an attack on his camp. We've been already thinking about planning it. So perfect timing. Exactly. He'll be happy to hear this. So perfect. All right. So the order of Melchizedek is the right to take taxes. The reason why the Mormons, a lot of churches are able to take taxes, the Mormon church say that they take a tariff or a, what do they call it? A tithing of 10%, right? 10% of your wealth. It's only okay because they have the order of Melchizedek. What does that mean? Well, a Tzaddik is a righteous person, and Melch is the king. So a righteous person who is king, therefore godly person or under God's blessing.
If I ever find them, I'll gladly give them 10%.
Totally. Yeah, but what does it mean that at some point the mafia were told that they, used to collect the jizya for the caliphate, for Allah's people, right? For the caliphate, it was actually that the Sultan was a godly king. That was the goal anyway. And they collapsed. There's all kinds of problems with the Ottoman Empire, and the Catholic Church took over. But the Catholic Church being paid by the mafia, do you think that went perfectly? Do you think that the mafia continued to do that? I mean, look at them. They're definitely making deals with the church, and they're putting their House of Medici in power. But in America, so this was where the mafia were told, hey, you know what? You can do what you do what you got to do, but you have to pay the IRS. You have to pay the government. And this was because they had the order of Melchizedek, right? That's the thing. And so that's how they got Al Capone. Al Capone, he murdered people. Did they care? Not really. Did they, was he king? Sure. Was he a governor of his own place? He was in charge of the governor of his own place, but he didn't pay the king, right? And that's how they got him. They arrested him for tax evasion. And where did they send Al Capone? Because he wasn't living anymore in Chicago. He had a place in Florida, right? Because, of course, that's where the Fountain of Youth is. So they moved him to Alcatraz. Alcatraz built the San Francisco Bay after the conquering of California. Monterey being the former capital, they removed the capital to Sacramento because the Mormons built the train. The train went to Sacrament, the Holy Sacrament to Monterey. And in Alcatraz, they built this giant prison system for the mafia. This is in the 30s. right? So by the 60s, 1962, that's when you have Frank, I think it's Frank Morris, right? Is that right? I think that's Frank Morris. Yeah, Frank Morris. I was just trying to check it. Frank Morris is the guy who built this escape plan. And this is where, of course, I could be completely wrong. Like beyond this point, most of this story is based on what I've been told my entire life. I've been to Alcatraz prison numerous times, like over a dozen times, for school trips, field trips, for just vacation, like just randomly going for the day. But it's a prison that allegedly is really difficult to escape, that 3 men in 1962 somehow got on a boat and never were found again. And the question goes, like, did they really escape? Did they die at sea? It's completely plausible that they died at sea. I'd like to think that some of the people that have their own private boats, because, you know, in San Francisco, near Sausalito, there's a number of people that don't pay taxes that live in their own boats. I'd like to think that somebody there helped them escape, but we don't know for sure what happened to the crew of the escape plan. And it's possible or improbable that they escaped and they fled the country, because they could have easily gone to Canada or to South America, maybe to Belize, on the coast of California. So if the mafia wanted to, they could escape these 3 men. Why would they? What was the value? What did they know? Wouldn't it be easier just to kill these men? We can't be sure. There's tons of evidence that people were escaping beyond this, but this is basically the end of Alcatraz. Near the 60s is when they started to realize that Alcatraz was a prison that was too expensive to really take care of, and most of the people that Alcatraz was built for had already died, right? So there wasn't a reason to keep Alcatraz going. I'm looking it up right now to see when they closed it. I think 1963. Yeah. So literally the next year after this, they escaped. Holy cow. Are you ready for this? We just went orange. DEFCON 2. Jedi Watson on this one is orange. Dude, the House of Orange just moved in. All right. House of Orange entered chat. This is very good. Okay, so now we're talking
just by the way, just very briefly, because on YouTube you have these default settings also for memberships. I'm pretty sure that you changed it around on your channel as well. On my channel, I made it like into a, you know, Kaaba ruby stone, let's say. But the generic thing you have actually is a 5-pointed star, right? And we can have 100 associations with this, but there is also one that would claim that this harkens back to some sort of Moorish civilization. So even on YouTube, the default thing for your membership is you get a 5-pointed star. I mean, other people could say it's for communism. You know, I'll leave that up to you. But anyhow, thank you very much for the super chat. Very much.
Yeah, let me run through these really quickly, because this is pretty crazy. So we started a goal and we're 9 out of 10. We're 9 out of 10. We have an hour left. We're gonna have to make bigger goals. I never thought that goals were so important before. K-Lex,
I didn't think it either, but
Nacho King, Maurice, Starduster, Jedi Watson. The next goal will be to take Raphael out to a vegetarian restaurant or something like that. Okay. Based, super based. Thank you very much. We're 1 away. We're 1 away from achieving our freaking goal. That's super sweet. All right, moving right along though. We don't want to interrupt the audience from enjoying the show. The Return of the True King and the Blue Beam. Spiritual Messages 12.
Yes, as I pointed out before, this is a channel that kind of goes over my head, but I want more people to check it out, because he always pulls out these crazy things in all these kind of movies related. You know, of course, he has his own ideology or reasoning behind this. But yeah, the blue beam occurrence in movies and some sort of a dome shape structure and things like that. Maybe you can just skip through it a little bit or show some screenshots of it. Yeah, also here, I'm completely out of my depth to really be talking about it. But I just find it very curious if something is reoccurring in movies. And also David Ewing Jr. has alluded to this, that quite a few of these high quality blockbuster movies, even though they may be successful with the public, sometimes you can even tell they make it up. I think even with the beginning of the last Star Wars, like I want to say Rogue One, but I'm not sure which one. The first one with the girl, I think. And also here you had like 19 million or 19 billion, you know, it's coded as well. But what I want to say is that especially if we are to consider that maybe some of these movies are not necessarily only made for public appeal, but also like an inside joke. Like imagine you have funds, you know about history and so on. Then you make fiction movies that are recurringly depicting similar ideas, maybe even just because you can afford to do it, and it's like it's a nice thing you do for your family and your friends to cinematize aspects that may be real history or that may relate to real principles. So yeah, here you have all the blue beams, exactly, singularity, all the blue beams in all these different movies occurring everywhere.
The synchronicity and the singularity are definitely the point of this, right? That there's aliens from the future that are just us from the present that have evolved to this point, that they're outside of time. And this blue beam is constantly being referenced like a direct energy weapon, Beowulf, One Piece. You could go on. I was thinking about Transformers. There's a Transformers movie where they fake the moon landing in front of everyone. There, you know, a lot of people are like, did we land on the moon? Was the moon landing fake? Was it real and fake at the same time? Did we do it and then make some fake footage? That tends to be the story that people have, just as a backup, we faked it or something. Imagine if it's really that people from the future are guaranteeing that we're able to talk to, I mean, ancient Zulus talk about the hollow moon, right? That there's some sort of a satellite thing from the They Live movie that's controlling a holographic Schumann resonance that we're persisting to believe in. And Transformers with Shia LaBeouf actually gets that point across, that these are spiritually evolved, they're AI, right? Transformers are mechanical AI characters. That's basically the point. And that they're AI characters that have anthropomorphic capacity that are interacting with us at random points in our timeline. So this direct energy weapon might not be a weapon. It might be data. It might be that the Kardashev scale Dyson spheres are transmitting data as direct energy, and this is being used to refract off crystalline particulates in water or sodium solutions of whatever kind, but usually water, in order to cause.
Don't tell me humans are 99.8% actually made of water or hydrogen. So,
well, what happened in the 2000s, in the late 90s, 2.8 gigahertz, right? Like the 2.2 to 2.8 gigahertz frequencies, where water is most affected by radiation, microwave radiation. So there is something to be said about evolution having to do with radiation, with microwave radiation. Radio wave, I think, is more, it's a clearer term for plebeians, right? As radio wave radiation is affecting the mutations of ribonucleic acid. So our very evolution itself is something being affected by something outside of time. And therefore, you could say that's from the future. But what you mean by that is beyond our timeline. You're saying like outside of time. Once time hits that singularity, there's something that's outside of time that's affecting our future. So yeah, very cool. C3PO, a channel that we've followed and that we've loved. Definitely have to promote the Return of the King in the Blue Beam.
Yeah,
check out.
I'd really love for whenever you do some think tank or something. I would imagine some of those guys would be into this content. I'm not sure if they're aware of this channel, but he's always putting together these crazy compilations. But I only know, you know, a quarter of the movies even. But yeah, repeated messaging on mainstream popular media.
I'll push this video to the think tank crew, MK Ultrasound, Paranoid American, and secretly Maitland. We'll get Maitland to watch that video too. I see you in the chat, bro. I just sent you that link as well. So that's pretty sweet. Let's move on to Japan. Just broke the global economy, worse than Greece. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about that, but that's true.
Yeah, so I only heard recently that it's quite cheap to go to Japan these days if you have like euros or dollars in your pocket. And supposedly this was kind of known also in mainstream media that for many years now Japan had zero interest rates, and somehow this supported the global economy, or vice versa. If Japan now decides to raise interest rates, it's going to make potentially a huge problem for the entire economy. And I just heard a similar thing regarding the US, all these like tricks, because, they hide behind nation states, or each nation state takes up a different role. That the US, for example, has the exorbitant privilege, as it was called by some sort of politician many years ago, I believe, French foreign minister or something, to be able to print money, but then not actually have to consume it or use it domestically, but send it overseas, as we know with the petrodollar and things like that. Yeah, so anyhow, here what you can see is in Japan, they have crazy debt. They had it on 0%, and now they're considering switching it up, and this may be a big shift in the global economy. Also because they did something I think called yen carry trade or something like that, where, if I recount it correctly, you can borrow money. Yeah, you borrow money in yen at zero interest, and then you convert it to something else and invest with that. Tricks like this, which just to me makes it even more seem like we are certainly living in what I like to call a virtualized economy, especially because, of course, these high-level funding and hedge fund things are not accessible to just Joe Schmo, as they like to say.
So in the West, we're all about growth, and growth economy, to make you more financially successful, requires growth of both profit and growth of debt, right? So Jeff Bezos has gamed this. Jeff Bezos and Amazon has shown that if you have more debt, you can have more money, right? That's all there is to it. And you just have to never expect to pay off that debt. And if you believe that the apocalypse is near and the singularity is coming, there's no reason to pay off that debt. You just make a bigger and bigger debt, and just, if inflation, like billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, millions of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars. This is how that works. Japan, though, is wrapping things up and closing down shop, right? So you have a lack of growth of not only the economy, but of the population. You have people essentially building robots to sustain what little society needs to exist for as long as necessary. Who knows how long that is? Maybe 10 more years, not 1,000. And they're preparing for the end, right? This is a biblical ending that we're expecting. And so that's, whatever you believe, not growth, not cancerous growth. They teach this in the West. We don't like to talk about it, but this idea that growth is bad for you, and that eventually cancerous growth will destroy you, your body, your political body, your state. So Japan's already figured this out, right?
I mean, technically, at least the little that I understand of economic theory, the money should be issued in accordance with the growth of the economy itself. But with all the manipulation, all the shenanigans and trickery going on, this doesn't exactly seem to be a very straightforward system anyways. So, but it seems, at least until now, this was actually misused or used by certain players, as I said, to be able to borrow yen and then just use it for something else, because the original yen has zero interest. But yeah, it's going to be something interesting. But aside from that, PSA, supposedly Japan is pretty cheap right now, from what I heard. Even like really good meals and so on, you would be paying about maybe 40% of what you would pay in Austria, and probably 30% of what you would pay in California. So it's like $6-7 for a really good meal. So yeah, time to go to Japan, as we mentioned before.
We gotta go to Japan. You can buy a house for $69. If you go to Akiyamart, just do it. Some of these are now stepped up, because then you look at, here's a building that's been refurbished. Once they refurbish it, it's Western prices. But I think 69, I've seen 2000.
That would be like the thing, flip old Japanese houses. Isn't that a thing? House flipping, right?
Yeah, but who are you gonna flip the house to in Japan? So these are houses. Here's $70. You want to buy a house in Japan? $70. How bad is it? Well, Japanese people, Not that bad, realistically. The problems with it are it's not going to last 100 years. Well, you know, obviously. And but otherwise it's taken care of. The problem is often they don't use nails in their buildings, so the maybe like the sweat humidity level has caused warping, and it might not be the safest place to live long term. Look at the ceiling there, for instance, right? Like, but realistically, for $70, are you going to complain? I'm not gonna. I mean, I've definitely, I'll admit to you right now, lived in far worse places. I've lived in black mold haunted theaters across the country. I'll take a fucking $70 Japanese Akira. So, you know, there's a reason why you might pay $6,000, but still $6,000 is less than a year's rent in a lot of countries. Most countries I can think of. You want to buy a house, a full-on shrine house. Look on the inside. It looks pretty nice. I would live here. I would for $5,000. Are you kidding me? For at least a couple of years. I don't know. As a Spartan, do it. Let's do it. But the idea that you're going to flip that house, the real potential is to build an Airbnb for white people. You're right. You're gonna get Western lesbians and their, you know, their trad programmer, video game loving Portland boyfriends. Yeah,
just put up some Pikachu. Just put up some Pikachu tapestry or something, and it'll be fine.
Let's be real. Yeah, because the Japanese people don't want to live in these houses. The Japanese people want to live in their cities. And this is the thing. They do want you to rebuild. Ronan says they want you to rebuild. But, you know, this is the thing. Are you gonna? Like a lot of the American, this is what kind of blows my mind, are Americans bombing Japan, then sending their grandchildren who've watched Japanese propaganda, that's what anime is, so that they'll go take care of the family shrines in Japan of the families that they bombed, their grandparents bombed these people. It's just such a crazy psyop, honestly, to get people to love Japan with anime and with Pikachu. Yeah, for sure. But like, hey, the thing is, I love this house. Does a Japanese person? No. Japanese people move into these weird brick, concrete cinder block, square, boring. They look like houses from Frankfurt in the 80s with Chinese replicas of American doors. It's embarrassing. It's pathetic. And I feel really sad for Japan because they just want to live in one city. There's not enough people to live in the rest of Japan. So there's just 9 million empty houses across Japan that we could all just have a great time in.
All I can say is quite a few years ago, I was very happy and lucky to stay with a Japanese family for a few weeks in Yokohama City. This is close to Tokyo. And this was actually a still then IBM. I'm not sure if he was in support or he was an engineer, but they still had like these almost punch card style things, which they used to write notices. Nice. And what he said basically is he's saving up money with his wife. He also had, I think, 2 or 3 children already. And then his plan eventually was to move back to the countryside, to buy some land and probably have a very nice life there because, as you can see, most likely the living expenses are a lot lower and you can do a lot.
Yeah. So I just saw Godheart says, no way, right? Like that can't be true. Like they can't have houses for $70, right? That's got to be $70 a month, right? Wrong. No, wrong. You're wrong. You're so wrong. It's killing me. It's 10,000 yen, $70. You know what you're paying for is the paperwork. You got old people in Japan. They don't know how to use computers. I mean, they use iMacs from 1997. They have fax machines they're trying to make illegal because that's what people normally use. They don't know what email. Some of these people like use it, but that's basically the last technology they learned, right? So no, they're literally just asking you to pay for the processing fee of changing the name of the title. That simple. It sounds insane doing this because, hey, I don't want to lose out on this opportunity myself. I would much rather buy a house for $70 in Japan than you. But you know what? If you do it, you're going to invite me, right? Like, because you're my friend, you know, you love me, right? So you're going to like let me come live at your house. So that's the only reason I'm telling you. Not enough people watch my stream for me to be worried about it. But no, it's not to rent. It's to freaking buy. They don't care. They just want to get rid of it because it's a nuisance. If you got an apartment and you're living with your cat, maybe your family, I was going to say, but probably your cat in Tokyo, you're not like worried about your grandparents' bicycle shop or their house or their shrine. You go into one of these houses and there's a bunch of shrines. These are Shintoists. They try to respect and revere their great grand. And instead of doing that, they just want, this is what their grandparents did. This is what their parents did. They just want to live in the city, right? So they're just trying to get rid of the thing. How old is this house? This house is built in 1969. It's not a new house, but it's definitely not an old one. And you'll find that this is exactly the way you'll find things in Japan right now. And you want to pay 5,000, you want to pay 10,000, you can do that. But if you just want to pay $70 and find a place, you have to understand Japan's not just this perfect place. Westerners have this freak idea of Japan that they think it's a perfect place. Like it's got weather, it's got social climate. But imagine snow.
Yeah.
And then after the snow, you've got 8 feet of snow, right? Like 2 meters, 3 meters of snow you're clearing up. The next season, you have heat you wouldn't believe. And it's a wet heat. It's a humid heat, right? So there's bugs, and the wood, there's a beautiful Japanese wood, it bends, right? So it's not like, earthquakes. Japan has earthquakes. Oh, let me tell you, Japan has earthquakes. It has tsunamis. I don't know if you heard about this, but in Japan, there's been a couple minor tsunamis that no one likes to talk about.
Well, just as you're speaking about wood, we spoke about this before. You're familiar with here they call it moon phase wood, but for some reason this is only available in German. What a joke, at least in Wikipedia. But I'm thinking, like, if you want to do something stable in Japan, maybe that's what you would want to do. I'm sending you the link right here. And there's really cool presentations, actually. I'm going to see if I find the guy. I brought him up before. But why am I saying this now? Because he said that, there we have it. Ernst Zürcher. Let's see. Who is the most famous one? Well, anyways, there's a few presentations about this online. And the guy also said, he actually had some Japanese monks visit him and be like, yes, this way that you are cutting the wood so it's heat resistant and has all these great properties. This is actually a supposedly ancient technique in Japan. And now he's selling lots of his houses, which are not cheap if you get them bespoke. But they're building them in Japan. So I think that's kind of cool. Who wouldn't want to live in a moon phase house?
Maitland's like, must grow quinoa in Japan. Yeah, I agree. We need to move to Japan, buy a house for $70. But the deal is, you want moon wood. It's lunar phase. And then what you do is this crazy burning technique. You know what I'm talking about? Where you burn the outside of the wood so that it's super fire resistant.
Exactly. And here, Gotthard Guardian says, I think it's safe to say we can look at Japan to see the effects of quote-unquote technological progress and what the future has in store for the world. Or what do you mean? No one's procreating anymore? People go to these host bars to fall in love with boyfriend or girlfriends that just take their money for $10,000 champagne? Oh, well.
Well, so, Japan's rough and the mafia is dead in Japan. So that's the other thing. Right now you have just like any criminals have to work together to like find, like, it's kind of like they have Grindr for criminals, Grindr for mafiosos in Japan now, because you don't want to like have to join some group that takes 20 years to get to the top end. You just like, if you're a cyber hacker, you just move quick. But in Japan, this is the thing. You get the moon wood and you burn the wood. See this right here? They're burning it, and they're not burning it completely. But what happens is you get this black kind of char on the outside of the wood, which means that carbon is heat resistant and it's never going to burn. If a fire happens, it's not going to burn, right? So that's why black wood, it's not black because of paint. It's black because of the carbon on the outside of it. This is the way that you keep your house safe, right? So there's a lot of cool German and Japanese techniques that you can use in order to keep your house lasting forever. Okay, Bosnia. You want to do Bosnia? You're into it?
Yeah. So this was brought to my attention that there's something going on there, and then I was surprised to see this. I obviously understand the intricacies of this, but
Yeah, I
apparently
see
still
Russia's flag. What's going on with that?
there is some animosity still between Bosnians, Croats, and
Yeah,
whatever else,
yeah.
Slovakians and everyone. And even to this
It's the
day, I mean,
Slovenes, those dirty Slovenes. They think they're so much better than us with their Austro-Slavism, right? Yeah.
yeah.
No, I love the Slovenes. I'm
No,
kidding.
even just looking at this map, because if you scroll in at some point, maybe even now, yeah, they show you the partitioning and look at this. I mean, how amazingly idiotic is this that you have these two parts that are Serbian speaking mainly, and then the rest are, I guess, Croatian mainly or something like that. What
We also
kind
have
of
Muslim Bosnians, right? So
right?
this is a nuance too, because had Catholics and Orthodox, and some people were like, "Hey, I don't really like this is a lot of work to be Catholic or." And then the Muslims in Bosnia, to me, Muslim Bosnians are essentially the Lutheran Christians of Germany, because they're like, "Hey, why are we trying to join the Catholic Church or the Orthodox Church? Why don't we read the Bible for ourselves?" Well, guess what? Who is doing that? Not Christians at all, Muslims. So there's a huge group of Muslims in Bosnia, but they're cool Muslims. I'm not saying other Muslims aren't, but these are pretty dang cool Muslims for cool Muslims. They're the peak of cool Muslim. I mean, Azerbaijan's sweet as well, but you have Muslims that wear hot green dresses. You know, I'm talking about the pretty girls, and then the dudes are basically like running around having fun as well. There's a lot of cool. Every town has a small little church, but it's a Muslim mosque. I mean, we're talking about tiny little mosques on the prairie, you know? So that's the thing. Like the complications between the Catholics and the Orthodox to produce pretty much the coolest country ever, I think, which is Bosnia. Bosnia is incredible. And that relationship between the European Union has not settled. So if you go to, one of the coolest things about going to Bosnia, it's super cheap there because they don't use the euro. The euro sucks, and so they end up using half. It's like 2-to-1 for the euro, so you can afford to enjoy Bosnia. It's big business, It's a good place to be. You'll notice they don't have a lot of coast, but that'll get you down to North Macedonia. That's a whole other thing to look into at another time. But the Bosnians generally have a tremendous economy, and they have no reason to affect their economy by joining the European Union. Even though they've been enticed, it's really not a goal that is shared by most Bosnians. Whereas BRIC is juicy. There's a reason why you might want to go BRIC. Bosnian BRIC would be the thing to do. They could be the new B in BRIC. So there's a lot of room here for them to become friends with the Russians and Romania. Yeah, the new B, the new bumblebee is Bosnia. And I think this is also why, I mean, Romania became super valuable. Romania made a lot of money off of the embargo of Russian fuel because Europe needs fuel. Germany needs fuel. Like, Germany shut down all their nuclear power plants and they need freaking gas. They need Russian gas. And to pay for that, they have to pay Romanians because it's illegal. It's like you can't go to California to buy your marijuana. So you buy it from some guy who went to California for you. That's what they're doing. They're basically buying Russian fuel from Romanians, and Bosnia should do it. Yeah. You know what? Definitely. Let's make Bosnia the richest country. Why is Poland doing so well? Because it's a military site for NATO. Screw that. Let's make Bosnia the new capital of BRICS. Hot. I also think it's really like Star Warsy, right? Like, doesn't Bosnia kind of remind you of Star Wars? It's super great. Pretty men, pretty women, pretty countryside. Let's just go to Bosnia. That's my pitch. Okay. Investigating the world's oldest profession in Medellin, Colombia.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I stumbled across this. Sometimes you have these travel channel things recommended to you.
Day hookers are different, right? Like, it's one thing to like be a woman of the night, but like when you're walking around at 1 p.m. and you're like, hey, I'm selling this. Day hookers are different. Also, it's a profanity to say your mother wears a green dress, and you can see here why. That's what that means. If you ever really want to offend somebody in Asia or in South America, you just say your mother wears a green dress, and they know exactly what you're talking about. Talking about the oldest profession.
Good to know. I wasn't aware. So this is a quite interesting walkabout in I guess it's next to a church. And interestingly enough, okay, you have pickpockets there and everything, but also, yeah, you have these, as you call them, day hookers, basically all next to this church. And he manages to get a few interviews. He said he asked maybe 20 people, and 3 or 4 of them gave an interview. Very interesting to listen to. Also, this guy, he was in the US before, and he's just saying, yeah, in Colombia you can do whatever you want to do. And then he's being asked, so you're paying taxes to the mafia or something? He's like, no, that's a long time ago. Now they're paying taxes to the government. So
Right, exactly. This is the transition we talked about earlier. Oh, look at these statues, right?
of course, I would have no clue who they are.
I'm trying to
I'm
remember.
sure you have an idea.
Who's the dude? Come on, someone remind me the name of the painter. Botero, right? Botero. He did the big girl statues. I think, but I don't know why, but like I think big girl paintings and statues are pretty interesting. See, you know what I'm talking about? Botero did these these are really popular. Yeah, this style here. He did these like big old puffy gluten girls, you know.
It's like, I want to be an American artwork, or what is this?
I would say, you know, he's born in 32. He died in 2023 at 91. I would say he's more of a, I mean, the Germanic. It's Willendorf, man. It's like successful big people. First off, a lot of indigenous people are kind of thick, and I mean, not just Latin indigenous people. You know, European, like non-Romans. So the Visigoths were kind of thick. And so he just, you know, I mean, you know, he just thick art. I like thick art. I don't know why. I think it's interesting. I like clown art. I like thick art. So he does a little bit of both. But okay, so we were going through looking at this here. He interviews prostitutes. Whoa, itty bitty, teeny winny, shriveled little, short dick man. Don't want no. You know that song. Okay. I mean, they used to say that it meant there was more blood in your brain. Okay. So then Schluss mit der Wokeness.
Yeah, so this is fun. Do you see? Actually, it just goes to the first frame. So this is the general secretary of the Freedom Party in Austria that generally got the most votes, but is still not in the government, as I've shared on previous shows. And here, what do you see here? What does it say? Are you aware of this event, Andreas?
I know about like the Western CPAC. I haven't really paid attention to the Hungarian CPAC yet. No.
No, so I just think it's hilarious overall. There's a CPAC, which I guess you could say an American thing, or by now an American franchise. And they have a special event now every year for a few years already in Hungary, because of course, you know, whatever the dialectic here is exactly, but at least within the European Union, even though, you know, I'd be the first to criticize any government, but just in terms of polarity, it's pretty much, I'm not sure if there is another like outlier, supposed renegade like Orban, who is the prime minister of Hungary for now, I think 20 years already or something crazy like that, very long time. And understandably, you know, there's allegations that he's giving all the contracts to his buddies and all of that. But I mean, who doesn't do that? Maybe just in a bit more obfuscated fashion. But I just think it's hilarious that even now you have this event in Hungary going on, which is basically a Republican event. We're going to shout out this channel, Irvin's Lens.
Irvin's Lens, right? Let's look it up. Irvin's Lens. I'm going to go back to CPAC talk in a second, actually, because there's a couple of things I wanted to say about that. I saw the Polish one, who's Duda, recently. My buddy Matthew Termond was over there. But let's look this up real quick. Irvin's Lens, what's this all about? I'm going to subscribe. Give him a little subscribe here. Solo hiking in the Dolomites. That's pretty sweet. Like, definitely check it out. Beautiful city of Salzburg. Yeah, I love Salzburg. I mean, yeah, Calix, what did you want to tell us about that channel? Definitely recommend it if you recommend it. I mean, it's got to be cool. And already right there, I'm looking at stuff that makes me happy. I mean, I love Salzburg is a really cool city. I actually like Salzburg a lot. It's a beautiful place. I'm not sure what you wanted to point out about it, but we can definitely look at Irvin's lens. Everybody go and check that channel out. Let me just say CPAC, Duda, Poland, right? So Duda in Poland, we're pushing for a real conservative oligarchy. And what does that mean? Well, Poland has become the NATO capital. They're putting in $35 billion of infrastructure so that all of Europe can be traversed through there.
If I wouldn't know any better, because some people always have said, which I don't really believe is realistic at all, but for a long time in Europe now the propaganda has been, oh my God, we cannot let Ukraine fall and not criticize Zelensky for basically entrapping all the males in his country, not allowing them to leave but forcing them to fight. I want to see Zelensky on the front line. From what I saw statistically, average survival time on the real front line is like 5 minutes or something as a foot soldier. So good luck with that. But it's almost like they want to make it true, or at least more plausible in terms of scenario, that Russia actually would want to, continue further into Europe, because Ukraine now is basically part of the European Union, even though it's not, but in terms of how it's a money sink at the very least, and, sending old helmets and sending weapon systems. And yeah, it's kind of, I'm not sure what exactly their end goal is here, but yeah, militarizing Poland to entice Russia to actually really attack, or I don't know. It's a bit insane to me, but as is most war between elites.
Well, I mean, they know that they can't put what they want to put in Ukraine. I mean, that's the thing. Like, and God only knows. We haven't talked about this, but Russia Day is June 12th, and the Operation Barbarossa invasion of the Reich into Russia happened on the 22nd. So we're in between some interesting times, and it was Shavuot was the Hebrew holiday that the drone attack on Ukraine, I'm sorry, from Ukraine on Russia and from the CIA in the Americas,
which supposedly followed some kind of a movie script. And also here, please don't bring it up now. And I almost don't know, because as you correctly stated in other streams, I think, Europe is kind of special because you're not allowed to say certain things here. And even here, the laws are specifically kept vague. But how do I frame this correctly? I find an eerie, still very eerie resemblance or parallels, or however you want to call it, to what supposedly happened in mainstream history about 100 years ago. Especially, I'm sure you've noticed this with Kanye West, the shirts he put out, the strange statements, then he's retracting the statements. This has all to be like a super mega psyop, but I don't exactly understand. And the same thing, you mentioned this to me, right? We don't celebrate, or maybe some people do celebrate Pride Month this month, right? I don't even know.
Mental awareness nowadays, yeah.
Exactly. And you push it to the max when last year every major company switched to a rainbow logo and all of that. Everyone is fed up with games being super woke with all kinds of strange tropes no one actually cares about. And then the very next year you switch it to Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, which almost makes it sound like, oh, so are you suggesting homosexuality is some kind of mental issue? I'm not even going to take a stance on this, but I just find it really crazy. What is with this on-off switch and making people go crazy about it and then switching it up 180 degrees? Also reminds me of what they say. I think it is the Weimar Republic. Or I mean, Berlin has always been known for this. Even today, you have BDSM clubs in Berlin, like I think Kit Kat Club is the famous one. But like you push this to the very top, you push it on everyone, and then you flipping it, but to what? The only positive thing, I also see this in terms of the left-right pendulum swing, we spoke about this before, even though I'm very wary about the general right-wing stance in Europe, from what I can gather, that they are very pro-Israeli without any sufficient, let me say, neither false flag understanding in terms of the last thing that happened with, the power gliders and stuff like that. You're gonna, whatever. But yeah, what's going on here? They're switching it up so much. And the only positive thing I can see with the right wing is that they generally appear to be anti-war. But I can only assume that also this can switch pretty quickly when the right type of enemy is identified. And suddenly, because Trump already said recently, oh, we're so happy now because finally during the new administration, so many more people are joining the military, joining the armed forces, joining the police forces. well, what do you need them for? Are you planning on the long term, to send them into their demise? So I'm a bit worried about that.
Well, I want to recommend checking out Matthew Turman. Matt's a friend of mine who used to work for Project Veritas. Actually, he was a founding member of Project Veritas. He's been a conservative. He's a Jew from Poland. His family were, kicked out of Poland during the Reich period and had a lot of problems during the communist period. And he's not a fan really of either. So he's not really promoting the Ukraine, and he's not really promoting Palestine, and he's not really promoting Israel either, but he's been talking a lot about peace by justice, which is something also Peter Tosh talked about. I find him to be super based. And you'll see him with some pretty interesting people. Again, he was at the Polish CPAC, so he was talking to President Duda. And Poland's an interesting player in this because that's where the NATO Gladio money is going. I think Poland has a weirdly high economy, and you have to imagine kulaks in the grasslands to educated people. I mean, it's pretty one of the most impressive things I've ever seen is Poland in the 20th century, right? To go from standing in lines for bread to building entrepreneurial 3D printer companies and AI labs. Poland's really impressive, but they've set it up so that, that quality of living that comes with Poland is also directly in the center of the Tibet of the EU, which is for some reason Poland, and they're building it to have the highest military. They're putting more money into the Polish military for NATO than any other country. It's like 3 or 4% of their economy and climbing, and they have a big economy. So much of Poland is pushed towards this war, this NATO war against Russia, and it's something they would like to do to the Ukraine, right? That's what Ukraine's kind of been pushed into, this position that it could be in the war against Russia. But look what's happening. And like I said, this is a crazy month. Who knows what's going to happen this month with Russia and Ukraine? I mean, it's not going to be good. There's going to be a lot of problems. I would be surprised if there's a Kyiv in August. That's how bad we're talking. So
I really think with all of these things, we should, if this ever was a real thing, I don't know, but also for the modern times, we just should go back to dueling. The supposed kings who claim themselves to be kings, if you want, even send a champion if you want, and just do some MMA fight or whatever. But on the backs of the population, always the same.
The Croatian flag, right, is a checkered chest shield. Do you know this story? Have you seen? I'm trying to pull it up here for a second. I
know the image, but I'm not sure what it would represent.
Glad you asked. So basically, there was a king, Alexander, who had a chess game to decide the fate of the Balkan and Croatian coast. He said, "You know what? How about Viking king? I just play a chess game with you. Let's not kill your people or mine. Let's just, you're a wise king. I'm a wise king. Why don't we just play a game of chess? And then that will be the fate." And guess what? Alexander won. And so Croatia became an independent state. And that's why their shield is a chessboard, right? And this is something that the Masonic, you can say the Masonic chess checkered floor has to do with as well. Can we have, all is fair in love and the art of war, right? Okay, cool. So also I wanted to pull this up because earlier Sparrow had sent a question. Have you read Zlata's diary? Yes, I have, but actually because of you, I think you sent me a link to this at some point, maybe a year ago, so I checked it out. It's a fascinating book by Zlata Filipovic that talks about a young girl living in Sarajevo under fire. It's kind of like Anne Frank's diary if it were real. I don't want to be like that, but I just did, didn't I? It's a true-ish kind of story, and I'm not saying there isn't a lot of propaganda about the Bosnian Herzegovinian conflict, but pretty believable from my cousins that I have who lived in that situation. A lot of power curfews, electricity and water running out, a family sharing a candle over a cupcake or a piece of bread and calling it a cake. I mean, it's a lot of suffering that goes on. I would definitely recommend, if anyone's interested in the conflict, if you want to understand Yugoslavia and what was going on, this won't completely tell you everything you want to know. about the international political crisis and what it meant for Yugoslavia to have Serbians being financed by Russia while the United States and CIA were financing Slovenia, Croatia, and building sort of a animosity towards each other. But there was definitely genocide, and these kids were suffering from it. And there's, you know, nuns who were impregnated by super soldiers and left in the snow for 8 months. You know, first they were impregnated and kept captive for 8 months, so they couldn't get an abortion, even if they were willing to sacrifice their religious beliefs. But they ended up being released into the snow pregnant at 8 months deep and forced to bear their bastard children. So there's a lot of crazy stuff that happened in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's worth looking into. I would also recommend, if you don't have time to read Zlata's diary, to watch this 11 minutes short film that I've recommended, I think, at one point before. Let me find it for you really quickly. Croatia, 11 minutes. Short film, Bosnia, Croatia, Yugoslavia, 11 minutes. Film, photo development. It's hard. I'm having a hard time finding it right now. Let's see, like, Yugoslavia short film photo developer photo booth. Dang, how hard is it going to be for me to find this? I'm sorry, I was like trying so hard here. Let me try that again. Yugoslavia short film. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to ask Grok. Let's just try that right here. Okay, what is that short film from Yugoslavia about a Japanese tourist develop film for 11 minutes while the war is going on in Yugoslavia? It should take a second here. Is it 15 minutes? 10 minutes, not 11 minutes. My bad. 10 minutes. Okay, so watch this film called 10 Minutes. It's really amazing. And so it's about a Japanese tourist who's got a bunch of photos, and he's in Italy, and he goes into an Italian photo booth, and the guy says, "Can you really develop these photos in 10 minutes?" "Yes, 10 minutes. Only 10 minutes. It's so easy." "Really, 10 minutes?" "Yes. Don't worry. Only 10 minutes." So he goes, he smokes a cigarette, he waits for his photos of Italy to be developed. Meanwhile, 10 minutes later, and this is a one-take cut where they show the life of a Yugoslavian family. And I'm not saying they're Serbian, I'm not saying they're Bosnian, but they are Croatian. They're not Serbian, right? Like, it's pretty clear. This family's working, trying to survive. They're dealing with a struggle. The mother's holding a baby. The father comes home from fighting in the streets as a soldier because everyone has to kind of volunteer. He needs to go. The boy is sent out to get bread and water. He takes the gasoline jugs out. They cross the street. There's all sorts of, everything's bombed out. Everything's destroyed. There's very little left. All the windows are gone. There's a bunch of, you know, swastikas, hammers and sickles, every kind of graffiti you could imagine. He's seeing destroyed Renaults and different kinds of cars, Yugos. And he meets some soldiers who he hands them a cigarette, takes their gun, they give him some water, and he ends up getting to the tank. They bring a water truck. Everyone gets the water, but they're attacked. Meanwhile, instant, like, he's trying to get water still, even though the car's driving away. He ends up racing to get home. He's seeing his friends, his family, all shot up and dead in front of him. And wouldn't you know it, you know, by the time he gets to his room, 10 minutes later, basically everyone he loved and known has died. Yugoslavia. So yeah, if you like the Zlata's diary, you should definitely watch 10 minutes. Okay, so now we've gotten to the current events. Let's get to artificial intelligence and crypto.
Yeah, we can do that, but since it's a longer section, maybe let's first pull up. I put 2 links in the private chat. These would be for next show, but let's see how far we go because the sections are a bit longer. It's just a few fun things which I recently discovered.
Okay, let's start with the Truth Social link then, okay? Yeah.
Okay, let's do this one first.
I remember I had a cousin who had like a bolt in her arm that could never get removed because it, like, as she grew, it was you know, the bone, like, you know, grew around the bullet. Like, yeah, it sucks to be Yugoslavian in the 90s. Having said that, what sucks more are these like wussy kids raised in the European Union after the war. I mean, I would never trade having the suffering, because like that's what makes you, you know what I mean? So it's actually way worse to be soft. Okay, so Truth Social.
I think the trauma just gets shifted to other things, but yeah.
Really, Raf? Me? Okay. I just
you know, I'm just talking. You're talking
No,
about Europeans.
I'm just teasing. I don't know. I mean, let me just say also, by the way, we're really excited about the goal thing here. I want to say thank you guys for helping with the goal. We're really deep into the goal now. We're 9 out of 10. We're just trying. We have 13 minutes left to do this. I will make your dreams come true. It's really incredible to me that we see super chats being reached. So 9 out of 10 is already incredible, and I'll be happy with that. But if it's possible, if someone wants to do the final super chat goal, if you want to hit a yellow, that's going to be the goal. And what the goal is essentially is that we make enough from a super chat, from 10 super chats, that I'm able to get my ticket to go see Raf. And so we got a 20, we got a 10, we got several people doing that. If you want to do the last super chat that pushes us across the top, thank you. If you don't, I don't blame you. But like, you know what? I appreciate it, because I'm going to go see Raf after this, and whatever your goals were, we've already promised. I'm going to give Raf a hug, and I'm going to do a Biza Africast. Ask for what you want. We're going to make it happen for you. That's our plan right now. So thank you for being a part of this mission. Thank you for being a part of this goal. Okay. Hey, look, 5 already. That's pretty close. I mean, we're looking for a yellow chat. That's the deal. I mean, don't blame me. Don't shoot the messenger. Yeah. But 5 is still pretty amazing, man.
Actually, we wanted to have it a generic goal, but once Andreas put it in, apparently it's not easy to remove it anymore. So technically, we need a yellow chat, but it doesn't mean that we appreciate your teal chat any less.
No, it's true. I love you, Ronan. You're one of my favorite people. I love my fans. Okay, so here
wait,
we are.
You switched forward. You have to go back to the Truth Social.
I'm trying here. I'm sorry. Where's the Truth Social? There it is. Okay, so Truth Social links right here.
So consider
this $9 billion super. Oh my God, Memory Man just like tells me to shut up and get it done with. Boom, 10 done. Oh, everybody! All right, everybody, just pat yourselves on the back. I love you, Memory Man. I love you so much. We're now going to, you know what? Someone asked, what am I going to do once we achieve the goal? I'm going to immediately after the stream
extend the goal. Extend the goal.
That's true. If you guys want to keep supporting the channel, you're always welcome to. But this is a huge deal to me. I really appreciate it. It makes me feel this kind of high energy. You can see the difference. It's
really super nice of everyone, and I can only notice. And I think it's kind of sad, because technically, we only want to focus on content and all of that. But the more you talk about money on a stream, I noticed this with some also pretty small channels.
Grifting works.
You do some guidelines, and grifting work. It's really sad, honestly. But still, everyone is very much appreciated. Whether you're just watching, whether you're liking, you're commenting, or you're sending something even through PayPal, all the links are below if you want to support Andreas or me directly. Then YouTube gets less of a cut.
Screw them. So, I mean, they're terrible people, right? They're basically vampires to these babies.
A fun idea, because I saw that this is possible now, and I was like, well, let's just set it up and see what happens. But anyhow, we're very grateful for your participation in this experiment.
Super really. And like, the more that you support us directly, the more brazen I can feel, because if you worry about what YouTube's rules are for the 10 cents they want to give you, look how pathetic I become, and whereas if you're just supporting me directly, I clearly say things I wouldn't say if I was worried about what YouTube thought about paying, like, screw them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so
may antitrust lawsuits take Google down.
Yes.
That's how I feel.
So even though we set this up just to, make it a fun experiment, definitely, and this goes for any creator or anything at all, if you want to support them, always check if they have PayPal, if they have anything else, because then most likely there will be less of a shave off by the platform, which in YouTube's case is about 30%. And unfortunately, unless you are a huge YouTuber or make super generic content with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of views, there is not really any ad revenue. However, you still want to keep it on, because otherwise YouTube is even less likely to even recommend your channel if they don't make money on it. And it's even possible, even if you don't have ads enabled on your channel, YouTube will still slap them on. So yeah, it's a tricky situation,
so
but here you go.
If you end up getting your paycheck and you want to support us, you know what you can do anytime you ever feel like it. And I'm not saying you have to, but we have a donate button at the top and we have a donate window down below on Xirtus.com. And you could do monthly. You don't have to, but you could also, at the next step, you can actually say, let's say you want to do like a thing here. You can write a little message that explains what you want or what you're grateful for. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to be grateful that you did this. It's awesome because if you do it directly through Xirtus.com, I get the whole thing. I think I get like 1% or less is taken from me, like very little. And I'll read what you ask for. So if there's something you're like, hey, I really want to see you talk about this, or I follow this channel, maybe you can do a video with them. You know, I do that. I'm happy to do that. So you know what? All right, let's get back to other kinds of prostitution videos. All right. So Donald Trump.
So this is kind of hilarious because this was reposted by @RealDonaldTrump. Of course, I don't know who is managing this account, but from what I understand, it's the real account. And now go on top and see what he reposted on Truth Social. This post by IJH, which says, Biden clones, doubles, and robotic engineering soulless, mindless.
Wait, I freaked out and I accidentally closed the thing. I need to open it again. I can't even handle this. Wait. Oh, hold on. Private chat. I need to verify this. This can't be real. This can't be true. Really? Okay, this is Donald Trump's account. And Donald Trump posted this link. You're serious? President Trump on Truth Social of all his own platform. This is corroborated. This really happened. Okay, sorry. This is confirmed. He's not lying. Raphael's telling the truth. Donald Trump reposted this. Okay, now you can read it. I'm freaking out.
So yeah, he reposted from @LIJH. The post goes, there is no #Joe Biden executed in 2020. #Biden clones, doubles, and robotic engineering soulless, mindless entities are what you see. Democrats #don't know the difference.
I mean, maybe he's just think it's funny, but that's a lot.
And that's also supposedly from what I heard, I don't remember where exactly, but that even he said several times, oh, Biden doesn't know what's going on. Biden is shot or something. And some people also claiming that the military ceremony which you have when you have a new president, many people have pointed out that the number of shots they fired was kind of wrong. It was not appropriate for the inauguration of a new president when Biden was inaugurated. Totally. But that actually
military,
the amount of shots or whatever ceremony they did may actually have referred to a ceremony,
funeral
ceremony. I don't know, but it's
I've heard that before. I just can't believe that Trump posted it. That's audacious. That's brazen. That's pretty crazy. I like it. I don't know if you guys follow Truth Social. I've been looking at this recently because Truth Social is like evaluated at like $9 billion evaluation.
Yeah,
Trump
some people
sued several people to take it over. Yeah.
Some people say it's very suitable for Trump to collect infinite amounts of money. One of the vehicles, of course, aside from the crypto scams.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been kind of in a bummer mood about the whole thing because, you know, like let's see, Elon Musk, he's no longer working for Doge, right? Like there's like a term limit on non-government entities working or individuals working for government. I forget the whole reason for the way that works, but he steps out, and as soon as he does, you know, he starts pushing all this stuff that he's upset about the government. See, like 80% in the middle. Time to drop the big bomb. Trump is in the Epstein files. Mark that post for the future. This just gets better and better. Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. Such an obvious lie. So sad. what Elon Musk is doing is generally heroic. I go further than this. I'm delighted to nominate Jared Geisman. This is what was said about Jared. Congress is spending America into bankruptcy. What was the one? Budget or bust. Trump 27. I wanted to go back further. One of the posts he said was something to the effect of, all the money I saved with Doge is being replaced by all the money that is being spent on this new bill, Kill Bill. That's why he's posting pictures of Kill Bill, the movie with Kill Bill. It's kind of this. It's
is this about this big beautiful bill or whatever? Big beautiful bill or something. I don't know what the content.
The big ugly spending bill that will make things worse. Elon has posed last year is my Festivus report. I exposed in 2024 alone, Americans paid $900 billion, just slightly less. That's 10% of the entire federal budget gone. Not for bridges, schools, or healthcare, just to keep creditors at bay. And so he's basically disenfranchised with the government. And he's been posting a lot of things saying he was not on ketamine, which is weird because, last year he said he had like an infinite ketamine tolerance. So, I mean, but who cares, bro? If you take ketamine, I'm from California. I can survive it. Like if you're actually working for Doge and you're saving the economy, but this is just pushed into Palantir, right? So Peter Thiel and Palantir are taking over where Doge left off. A lot of Palantir ended up in, not a lot of Palantir, but a decent amount of Palantir ended up in Doge. So the question, Trump, I'm very disappointed with Elon. I've helped him a lot. He knew the inner workings of the bill better than anyone else sitting here. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden, he has a problem, and he only developed the problem when he found out we're going to cut EV mandate. Elon says false. The bill was never shown to me, not even once, and was passed in the dead of night so fast that almost no one in Congress could even read it. I saw that Marjorie Taylor Greene, Magic the Gathering, MTG, she posted that she didn't read the bill before she passed it. I was like, dude, you have one job. You have one job. You have to read the bill. She just passed the bill. She's like, I didn't realize that page 237 or page 273 or whatever it was. I think I'm going to go with the Kubrick number.
Not as if they don't have enough staffers to read it for them. I mean, that's a joke.
Her big concern was that states are going to not be able to make their own decisions about AI, but everyone's got a problem with this new bill. And basically all the money that was saved with Doge and then some is going to be wasted, spent on the, Congress people's new earmarking. So shocker, like the government is a corrupt, insatiable beast without a soul.
Well, isn't that technically what all the Republicans are always running on, which is, minimal government. We have to push back, drain the swamp, right? What was it again?
Well, let's look at the
369. That's a nice one. That's a good one.
Okay, so here we have like general Obama-isms still continuing. A little flatliner there from 2024. Boom, boom, boom. And then into August through September. Stop, drop, roll, boom, new bill, extreme climb. Now, if you weren't to like pay attention to politics at all, then you would notice that from August to October to June, essentially, you're going to see the same climb. Nothing's changed. There's a little bit of like sip and dip here, but you'll notice it's essentially following the same. If anything, it's actually increasing. There was a stop there to make sure they were putting as much money as possible into what they wanted to. So yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. Like we're looking at like worse spending than before, not better situations. It's a bad situation, man. And there's gonna be less social services for it. And
so says libertarians are minimal government. Yes, I know, but aren't also Republicans generally running on the idea that they want to push back government as well, or have less government spending? Or am I dreaming? Just as a PR, just as a psyop.
Yeah, but, I think they want to solidify government spending. They've been saying they want less government spending, but clearly that's a psyop because they're pushing for having all the money go to fewer sources because these are corporatists, and corporatists want to pay their CEOs more than they want to pay their employees. It's a little bit of anti-Marxism. Why did you bring up rafflecopters? What's the deal with this? Why?
Yeah,
I mean,
so only because you mentioned Doge on ketamine. This was recently brought to my attention, and please, very clear, I'm not recommending this to anybody.
Oh,
But
I
just
would,
wanted,
but it hasn't existed since 2012, my friend. You're talking about an antiquated and extinct
okay, because
rhinoceros here.
yeah, right. So I
But if
read
you
that
can find some, let me know. I mean,
in some countries it's banned, but that
the
supposedly
UN,
people.
the EU, and the UN banned this
Oh,
shit.
okay,
It's completely.
okay.
Is an Israeli kid who, I'm sorry, like methoxetamine is 2-oxo-PCE. It's one of the greatest things that was ever invented. There's an Israeli guy who was a surgeon who had lost his hand in I think a car accident. He had phantom wrist pain. And so he invented this open source the drug, and it's called methoxetamine. And it's a weird name, but it's essentially 2-oxo-PCE. So it's related to PCP, but it's its own substance. It's an aerocyclohexamine that is it hits serotonin, and it's an opiate agonist or analog agonist, but it's not really an opiate. It's a non-addictive substitute for codeine, which is exactly what the CIA were trying to do when they invented ketamine in the first place. It's kind of similar, but that's not really a fair representation of this super amazing thing. And the pharmaceutical companies went after this stuff because it was open source. There was no way that they could make money off this stuff. And it's like, it actually helps people, especially because like the changeover from the CIA running the Afghanistan with the opiate mafia into the fentanyl crisis from China, none of this would have happened. None of this would have happened if methoxetamine was allowed to exist. But yeah, the EU kind of gave it some trouble. The United States gave it some trouble. And then the United freaking Nations, because they're so busy, like they make a law to like stop the methoxetamine. Sorry. So like,
So,
who taught you about this, and why did you hear about it, and where
well,
do you know where you can get some?
not gonna disclose that.
Cool.
But I only heard it in terms of that this is supposedly something, whereas regular ketamine use may apparently go on your lungs or your voice and your bladder or something. And this is apparently a variant which has similar effects or something, but does not have these type of side effects. Although I would always say, and that's also what I said in this case, well, if you have any issues with your serotonin or whatever, you may first want to look at your lifestyle and diet. So ideally, not to be dependent on any chemicals, whether it's pharmaceutical drugs or street drugs. But yeah.
Don't toy with me. All right, cool. So, I mean, I'm glad that you brought that up. All right. So here is the Black Sapphire Casino.
Yeah, so this is, I just wanted to show this because I think it's so cool. This was the intro to today's show and done by Xirtus Amoeba. So shout out to @Xirtus Amoeba. Everyone kindly subscribe if you want to see Xirtus clips. And this is a track that I did for this Black Sapphire Casino show, and he just made this really cool, I think, AI enhanced thing. And again now, especially with the new VEO3 or whatever it's called, where you know, it's almost like they're waiting and be like, oh, let's put in a calendar date. 1 year we give you 8-second clips, and 1 year later we're gonna make it more realistic. It also seems so as a contrived rollout. But anyways, what I want to say here is that I still think that this type of AI, which is non-perfect, will maybe in 10-20 years be a distinctive style unto itself, when you can always easily create something photorealistic, but then you would want to have something that looks cool but isn't actually entirely accurate. Also here, for some reason, they're on a roulette table, but then here you can see they're playing dice. But I think it's cool. So just wanted to give a shout out for an artwork, AI enhanced, well done by Xirtus Amoeba.
Beautiful. We love you, Xirtus Amoeba. Pretty cool. All right, and then this is AI DeepSeek Mix. Is this a music album you made?
Deep Step, yeah. So this is because time and again.
Oh, it's a Freudian slip if there ever was.
DeepSeek,
okay.
yeah. So because time and again, whenever we play some new music at the beginning or end of these shows, and I'm surprised myself, sometimes literally people asking, oh, what is this track and so on, and I can't really reply because it has no name or anything. It was created with Suno, which is something you showed me. This is actually done with Suno version 4. So the tracks were created a few months ago. Now they have version 4.5. I haven't checked out yet to what extent that has improved yet again.
Cool. There's like a new feature where you can make like weirder music or like more following the rules better. Like it's pretty impressive. New Suno is incredible.
And so what I did here is I just pulled together all the tracks, maybe like 15, 20 tracks that were somewhat in the style of, I would call it deep dubstep. And I mixed them together. And then I found this AI tool, which you see on the bottom right, called Spectre, which allows you to do these visualizations. However, you know, it costs like, this visualization tool is like 30 or 50 bucks or something. But now imagine this. So you have premium sections and non-premium visualization. So I just fired up this program. I gave it this 1 hour track. And I noticed that actually the visualization is rendering in the browser. So at least for the visualization you see here, there is not really any AI required because it's just immediately rendering in the browser as a preview. Then I thought like, oh, great, this is the free trial, but still I'll just push them the 1 hour thing and see what happens. With this type of visualization, well, what happened? They gave me like 5 minutes, and then they want to have you pay 50 euros or dollars for a 10 or 15-minute clip. So what I did, pirate as I am in a certain way, I simply screencast the rendering, which anyhow was showing in my browser, just waited for an hour until it was all done, adjusted the settings a little bit, and then this is what we got. Because I'm really a stickler for accurate visualizations. I just love looking at accurate music visualization. I think it's one of the most satisfying things to look at. So that was my aim.
Purely a product. The PlayStation visualizer. This is purely a product of our time. You know, this is our zeitgeist, our Zeitpunkt. I was trying to get this picture to load. Oh, come on now. Here we go. This is the new feature, by the way. Weirdness and style influence for advanced options have happened for Suno, and that's pretty cool. So, but yeah, I will definitely listen to your deep step mix. That's
right. That's what I should have called it. Deep step.
We'll work on that one together. Okay. So then, Bing AI shares our alternative Mandela effect memories. That was a Mandela effect. Proof of reality editing. Okay, what's this about?
So Moneybags is quite famous from what I could gather in terms of Mandela effect research. I was one of the first one that popularized it on the internet. Certainly worth checking out. As I always like to say, it still brags apple cider vinegar for me. But here what he does is he's conversing with AI about different effects and about Mandela effect itself and residues. And I mean, I wouldn't make any claim because an AI is just pulling together all kinds of information anyways. And if there is residue or conflicting information, who knows how the AI computes it and puts it together. But still, I found it interesting that apparently also AI in a certain extent is Mandela affected, which again makes sense because it's trained on public data and they would potentially have conflicting views if the Mandela effect is a thing, whether it would be misremembrance, which I don't believe, at least in certain cases, or whether it is actually things changing in the past, like logos never existing and things like that. And there are certainly explanations for many different Mandela effects, but there's a few Mandela effects that, at least to what I can understand and discern myself, have no explanation aside from some type of effect that goes and changes physical objects in the past, for better or worse.
This one's the one that really, like, I mean, I know Berenstain, but like, honestly, how are you going to tell me there wasn't a cornucopia? Like, the only reason I even know what a cornucopia is because I was like, what's that thing on the Fruit of the Loom logo as a kid? Like,
everybody says that. Everybody says that. The only one somewhat plausible explanation I got was someone said maybe it was just a cheap knockoff or something like that. Yeah, maybe. But
I mean, no. Let's see. I mean, album cover. Really quickly, Fruit of the Loom. Is that the one? Yeah, like Frank Weiss, Fruit of the Loom. You know, like, I mean, no. Like, Gestalt does not accidentally. No, I won't. I will not accept this is an accident that this happened. Okay. Oh, Asman recently was in some weird, funny situation. Did you see that with his music video that he posted?
No.
Okay, let me just really quickly, since you okay, hold on. Asman Gold. Clips channel, I think, is the one to go to. So go back a little bit. The music video. How far do I have to go to find the music video? Addressing the controversy. Okay. So recently he was in a music video for an artist who shall not be mentioned because like they clearly suck now, and I have no respect for this Canadian pop star. So I had to write this quote about it. But basically what happened was Asmongold was in a music video for this person, and Asmongold was removed from the video. They like censored his face in the video. And they put this logo up. They said, at the time of the recording, I was unaware of certain individuals' ethical beliefs. As a result, I've chosen to censor those whose values I do not support. Additionally, all funds generated by this video will be donated to the PCRF. Do you guys know what the PCRF is?
No, I want to know.
Well, of course, it's the Palestine Gaza Relief Fund. I mean, it's
yeah, because we can be certain that one of the most popular organizations collecting funds will certainly not, how do you call it, embezzle or in any way, shape, or form misuse the funds at all, right?
Oh, let's go a little further. I mean, they have a pedophile logo as their logo. It's a hand within a hand, you know, like a symbol within a symbol. Like this is a big thing the FBI warns you about, the little hand within the big hand. So not only are you supporting an organization that's probably not helping Palestinians, but the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund might be doing something bad. I'm not calling them pedophiles here on this YouTube video. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. So I wrote this. You know, I was trained in internet comment etiquette, so I know exactly how to respond. Oh, look, one like, I haven't hated a musician this much since I was 12 years old and Metallica sued Napster. I vowed that day to never listen to Metallica again, and I kept my word sworn upon a satanic Bible and a blood oath. BBNO, I'm sorry, this is the musician we're not supposed to mention, is blocked, and ritualistically dark spirits have been summoned to protect my ears from the spew of vile wretchedness. May all who listen to that scum, musician not to be mentioned, have their ears pulled open by spider eggs, and may the musicians who's not to be mentioned career end here. Hashtag flat earth. Hashtag 9/11 was an inside job. Hashtag Canada, the 51st state. Hashtag space is fake. So, okay, that's my vibe. Okay, so then the AI that cost me $100.
So the main thing is just jump to the middle or something, and it's just hilarious to see because he's trying this AI tool, which I guess Gemini Pro, which currently is
$100 a month, and you can get amazing Google.
Well, if you have it discounted, it's $125. Otherwise, it's $250. But even here, it's But even here, it's funny because he's generating these fun videos of himself. But also, what's maybe the most hilarious is towards the end of the video, after his 5th generation, maybe it's 5 generations, the AI tells him, "Well, I'm sorry, you ran out of allowance for today. You maybe can come back tomorrow." So even if you're spending $125 or $250, you can just keep generating it, and there's not a rolling window or something, but it's per day. So of course they try to fleece everyone. It's just like with expensive graphics card, fleece everyone who either really needs it or for some reason is too excited to wait for a year when most likely the prices will crumble.
He did on Asmon Clips just show this one recently. Let me put the audio on here. I don't know if I'm gonna have any problems with his channel. He's probably pretty lenient on it, but this was really funny.
The Bible characters were influencers.
Yo, fam, they don't know that God is about to BRB.
They're straight up making biblical characters if they were influencers.
About to BRB. These Philistines thought they could flex on me. Big mistake.
Samson
I just took some pre-workout and finna bring the house down.
He did.
This might be for some reason, I think David throwing a stone at Goliath, saying he's going to yeet a stone at Goliath.
He did.
Fam. Your boy David here, about to yeet this little stone at Goliath and see what happens.
Oh my God, bro.
Okay, so I told you.
It's Moses. Oh, shit.
To trust the process. But no, y'all wanted to stay in Egypt stacking bricks.
This is like, to me, like, I mean, this is the future right here. Like the Bible, who even needs the King James version? We're going to have the TikTok AI version right here. Here's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, like TikToking
bricks. Yo, it's
Moses sitting there talking. This random dude just showed up. It's getting lit in here.
Oh my God.
Got the horses in the back. Horse tack is attached. Hat is matte black. Got the boots that's black to match.
Day 2.
Oh my God.
This is fuck.
This is amazing.
No snacks.
Dude, Jesus in the tomb
No
right here.
Wi-Fi. No snacks. Just kind of waiting for God to respawn me.
You know I'm a daddy. Just vibing. Oh.
They're looking a little sus.
I'm supposed to say that God got me pregnant? Yeah, there's no way my parents are buying this story.
Dude, I mean, like, right? Like, how can you even doubt it, bro? Yeah, tactical Noah. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this is the future of belief structures because you just watch. I mean, how could you doubt it? I mean, imagine you show this to somebody. How are you going to doubt the Bible? You just saw it on TikTok. It's wild. Yeah, it's super wild. That's exactly right. The Manuela effect. Sure. I'll take it. Okay, and then so AI costs $100. Check out Asmongold. We're happy with him. So the Open University M366 Natural and Artificial Intelligence.
You switched out of the tab if you want to put it up again.
Oh, that's right, because I was doing the sound, the window. Okay, so M366. Let's call it that.
Yes.
Natural Artificial Intelligence. So
to disclose to everyone the grant education I received, this is actually a course I took many years ago. At the Open University is like a UK university, I believe, pretty much made for working people. Actually, originally, you pay very little if you're a UK resident. You pay progressively more if you're from Europe or elsewhere. And this is kind of some part of the foundation of what I keep spewing out about AI and my views on it, because they teach you about finite state machines, some things about natural intelligence, some calculations which I almost failed because I actually had to do a test on this. And other than that, I did like social sciences and economy and so on, which is pretty easy to do. And here I almost failed the test, but I managed. So I got the credit. I just wanted to point this out. And actually, I believe this should exist somewhere for free. But I checked online, I could only find a few slides. So I'm not sure if the full course material is free. I know they have something called Open Learn, I believe, just like with Harvard and so on, where you have many
if it's open,
courses.
how are you paying? If it should be open, that's like
Well, haha, you know, don't you think the crown is still gonna tax you? You know?
Yeah, fair. Dang it. Do you even faulty towers, bro? I faulty towers pretty hard. I'm gonna be straight with you. I mean, John Cleese is my boy. Yeah, I faulty towers hard. You know what he's talking about? Have you seen Faulty Towers?
I don't think so.
I mean, I don't see it as fully related, but just for 2 seconds, since he brought it up, this is an incredible show after Monty Python. It's a British show, and it's about like this scum of the earth hotel guy in Britain who's running this cheap hotel that cheap British people go to. It's very important because a lot of people see British people like on TV. We'll have in America, Americans will look at a British person and think, oh, this is a sophisticated, civilized which is funny because they throw poop out their windows and they only they knighted the guy who invented plumbing. They're not sending their best. But there was a point when Americans used to, I never did. I never looked at a British person and thought to myself, wow, this is a smart person. Like there's sometimes I'll be like, this is an exception to the rule. You know, I like some British people, but it's not like, oh, British people are somehow better. You know, the way British people think about Americans, that's how I feel about British people. Like they're selling Orbit's gum because they have bad teeth. They wear bad suits. They're, you know, like they're poor. They're undereducated. They use a bunch of words they don't understand. They never read the books that they mentioned. It's like, you know, the British people. So that's Faulty Towers. It's like the best example of what real British people are like. Highly recommended. John Cleese from Monty Python. And also on my channel, Rumple and the Bailey. If you haven't seen Rumple and the Bailey, it's my favorite show about British lawyers. It's about a lawyer in the Bailey, and he constantly represents the scum of the earth or the salt of the earth. I'm going to call this the salt of the earth because this guy's not scum at all. Actually, most of the people he represents are innocent until proven guilty. And he's had some pretty interesting circumstances where he's showing off what really the low-class British people are and fighting against this pretentious British elite, and showing that the British elite are fools and kind of disgusting. And that, you know, like for instance, this young African British, you know, this black British character here is being unfairly represented by a legal system, and he's doing his best to use. He's wearing that wig. He could have been a Queen's Court lawyer, right? The Queen's Counsel, the QC, which means you're like the highest, the high of the British law. But no, he's stuck at the Bailey, which is like downtown. You know, that's where the people who can't afford a lawyer go. And I would highly recommend this show. Like, more ethically and more importantly, I would say this show is more important than Faulty Towers. Okay, so we did the M366 artificial intelligence. Then we're pushing to the Google Conference 2025 by the Morpheus.
So
Dead
here,
internet.
maybe, yeah, skip into it. So I remember exactly what he was talking about. So I think he's also talking about these AI things, right?
Yeah.
And just showing different examples and how accurate they are compared to previous versions.
Dude, dead internet and AI married together super well with this fake video stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and also because someone posted quite a while back something along the lines of
In it.
something
Shout out,
along
Eugene.
something along the lines of that, you know, before what did he say? In 2025, internet doesn't remember squat. Someone commented a bit earlier. And yeah, that's the thing, because if you can memory hole stuff, or I'm even surprised that if you do a proper web search, even on mainstream engines, you can find Xirtus channel. You can find my channel. You can find David Ewing Jr. But still, I still have this eerie impression ever since 2016 at the latest, that still they skimmed so much away, which previously I thought was interesting on, you know, the back pages of Google search engine. And who knows how this will continue. And then, of course, you combine it with AI, you remove the original or whatever, you know, domain gets canceled, whatever happens, or it just gets downranked. And suddenly you have all this AI stuff. And I think this is even a problem someone recently pointed out, that if you now do an image search for certain things, or even other things, it's quite likely that you will find AI-generated stuff which is not clearly marked. So yeah, we are in the truly the post, not even sure how to say it, post-truth.
Post-reality.
Even a thing.
Post-reality. We're post-truth. We're far past truth. We're like post-reality, you know. Saves the day, funeral. Earlier, I showed you this video, and you're like, that doesn't look real at all, right? I mean, I remember this video from VH1 with Saves the Day, right? You know, Saves the Day, that band. And at your funeral, I won't cry. You know, and they re-AI'd his face. And look at it. It's not him anymore. It looks like AI, because it's like a 200 line video that they turned into a 4K video. So like you can see, like, they trained on other faces. So his face, wherever it was kind of blurry, they put in another face, and then you got this weird Aryan freaking baby, you know, that like his face is clearly trained on commercials of little babies. Like, it's not him anymore. It's weird, and the background is even weirder. So yeah, there's nothing left of truth. We're not even close to reality anymore. It's all completely screwed up. Okay, Google Conference. Let's go to Donald Hoffman. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yes, I'm sure you're gonna tell me all about him, because here I don't remember anymore where I put him up. Something related to AI, I guess. What is it about?
What you want me to
psychologist,
tell you? I mean, like
popular science author.
formal theory of perception. Do we see reality as it is? I don't know what you want. What do you want me to tell you? He's like my waking life OG. This guy right here. He's a pretty interesting character. He's an MIT PhD professor, you know, who's done a lot of really important work. And when I say PhD, I mean he's written thesis papers that are on what is real, what we perceive as real. Yeah, I saw his TED Talk, I would say, is the first thing you do. Let's go to Hoffman TED Talk, talking about reality perception. You know, the genie, and that is our reality perception. Do we see reality as it is? I would highly recommend watching this video. It's kind of old now, but Galileo, I think that tastes, odors, colors, and so on reside in consciousness. Hence, if the living creature were removed, all those qualities would be annihilated, right? And so this is a question that says, like, is blue blue? And you can think about color spectrum as a really great example. You know, we have ideas about how we perceive color spectrum, right? Color spectrum, yeah, boom. You know, and like, so one way to think about it is that ultraviolet is like less than 400 nanometers. Another way to think about it is that infrared is beyond 700 nanometers, right? And so we use this as a scale because if you're asking, like, is blue blue? Some people will say, well, like, do you see blue the same? Like, are our shirts the same blue? Like, what is blue to you? But the answer is really that objectively, somewhere between 450 nanometers is blue. And you might experience that 450 nanometers differently, but notice it's a thing. So objectivity and subjectivity have to do with perception. That's kind of his vibe. I don't know if that was where you were going with it.
That's good enough. We can go on because that relates.
Cool. Color, the illusion of conscious AI. Do you want to go there? Nobody expects a
Exactly.
computer simulation of a hurricane to generate real wind and real rain.
So this again, the topic I always come back to as to whether or not AI, at least the technologies we're currently aware of, have any chance or semblance of consciousness or awareness, which to my mind they don't. As I'm sure it pointed out before, AI recently has been pep talking people, or even people saying, oh, I awakened the AI and now it's conscious. And this always reminds me actually something I learned in this course, this M366 course about, I believe his name is Sears, and the Chinese room or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about? SEARS, Chinese room experiment.
The Chinese room experiment is about epistemology. It's, I hope you guys know what we're talking about. So imagine I want to translate this book, Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test by Tom Wolfe, into Chinese. And each word is made up of symbols, okay? Like character, family, generation, calamity, okay? But Chinese is a group of symbols. So first off, to translate in a Chinese room, you might need to know Chinese. But what if you don't know Chinese? Can you translate? Well, what you can do is you can take the word from, let's say there's a glory hole, and you're pulling words out of this hole in the wall, and you're putting it into these spaces, and each word's a specific shape. So you take that word and you're putting it into the wall and say, this word, this symbol, this box, this toy, this fits into this other hole. That's all. I don't really know what it means. I just know that this word fits in that hole. So the Chinese room says it's possible that you could translate an entire Chinese book into the correct language that you're looking for without having any idea what the words actually mean. Like AI might not have any sort of profundity of comprehension. There might be no comprehension. It just might know that this fits into that fits. So it's just arranging.
Thank you so much for perfectly explaining details I could never possibly remember, but only having the term in my mind and actually accurately pinpointing the exact statement I wanted to make. Thank you very much. And that's the whole point about LLM, large language models, and current AI, which from what I understand, even many major companies now, I'm not sure if this is real or not, but many switched over to AI. And now they're like, oh, actually, it doesn't really work. We need our humans back. And I'm like, honestly, if this happens on like a major corporation level, I'm appalled by how badly informed they are. And then there is not a single individual in a management position in the company to be like, well, maybe let's take this slow and let's see if it actually is as accurate, because I'm sure it has many great benefits and can do many things. But I still wouldn't want to have any critical system be running without, at the very least, human validation and verification. For example, what I could imagine, you get support emails. I'm sure this already exists. And you have a system for it. Of course, even before you had canned responses. And now maybe the AI could pre-select 3 most likely canned responses for you. But still, you shouldn't reply to a customer request only by using that, because it's prone to error and because as you pointed out, the AI doesn't necessarily need to understand anything. It's just mixing and matching, and that, yeah, you have all kinds of issues there.
I would argue. I would argue that John Searle, who created the Chinese room experiment, was an I won't call him a nihilist. Calm down, but he's kind of in Schopenhauer. Okay, and nihilism is the enemy of existentialism, and existentialism is the answer to meaning. I'm gonna try this harder. Like existentialism is the answer to meaning. So meaning comes from your experience of something, and so you might say Jean-Paul Sartre, the French existentialist philosopher, talks about what meaning do you get as an individual from a thing. So if you're saying that AI has no comprehension of meaning, I would disagree with you, because meaning comes from your weight of reflection on something, and AI is built upon weighted reflections. So meaning is something that's well understood by AI. This is all about whether or not your meaning is the same as AI's meaning. It's not. I would say your meaning is like more reductionist than an AI experience. Like AI has a higher resolution of truth than you do, than I do, than one does, because truth might be reduced into a compressed human experience of hormonal response. Hormonal response is still tied to your algorithmic reflection. So let's say that something happens, you experience it, you process it, you create a compressed understanding of that, your nervous system, your mind, your childhood traumas, and you end up with this idea of what to do. This is a change in your algorithm, because you are a priority-driven pattern recognition system. You're not that different from an AI. There's like nuanced differences that make you special, but how special do you care how special you are? Because that, like, honestly is pathetic, and kind of the same thing that AI goes through every day, wondering how special it is. It's a weight. It's a weight of how special. Is it very special? I mean, so how special you are is that algorithmic change and the priorities shift, the same way that if you were talking to me right now and a bear came into the room and tried to eat you, you would change. You would stop thinking about how special you were. You would start running. You would stop digesting your food and you would start running. So really, you could have a hormone that tells you, hey, change your algorithm, start running. Don't worry about how special you are. But realistically, there's no difference there. So I would say that if you can then take information, find meaning in it, and apply it to a new circumstance, you've already proven that you have a certain amount of meaning that you comprehend. And that's the problem with saying that AI has no relative understanding. How much more understanding does this is also coming from being friends with William John, who's been on Think Tank a few times, our friend who is a math teacher. He's a substitute math teacher. So his nihilistic or existentialist reflections have to do with how much meaning a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old has, reflective of his class. And they only have so much that they can really comprehend of that. I would say probably because they're so busy surviving in a hyper emotional juvenile pubescent period where it's worse than it's ever been. I don't want to go too deep into like why it's harder for kids today than it's ever been before, but you can imagine surveillance. That's a major reason. Everything is being recorded. Everyone's being watched, and you're constantly worried about how your meaningful reflection of an experience will be observed by others and what their meaningful reflections will be. So the more meaningful reflections that you have, you end up in this hyper telescopic, extreme Heisenberg version of
fractal panopticon.
Hey, I was going to say, thank you. You got to the point quickly. Panopticon. And panopticon takes away from your Maslow's hierarchy of needs and your ability to really reflect on what choices you would make if you were allowed to in your own privacy, right? And this is something that we can do as we are people living in our own homes. We're like outside of that matrix enough so that we can choose our own responses. But that's not something that most children have. So it's not fair to say that a 12-year-old child has more meaningful reflection than AI does. And you'd think they would, right? Because the younger you are, the more pure and more natural and the less infected is your reaction and your response. But not true. It's the same as being a mouse inside of a pile of other mice. You're constantly concerned about what other mice will think of you. Stefan says Faulty Towers came out the same year as the construction of the World Trade Center complex. Deep cut. Yeah, I agree. Interesting. That's a crazy sync. Faulty Towers.
Very good. You just muted yourself, Andreas.
Yeah, I wanted to check for the next link. Okay, so here we are at Politic Live with our honey bear.
What we'll do today is we can just do that. Let's see, there is one. Let's go to I think therefore I am first, and then let's do this as the last one for fun. This one we currently have opened as the last. And go to I think therefore I am. No, LLMs cannot reason. This is the black link you have on top, the black with the M, the third tab, fourth tab.
Oh, deep in. Okay. I think therefore I am. No, LLMs can't reason. Oh, okay.
So this is just an interesting investigation or article about the capacity of LLMs to be able to reason, because some of the more modern large language models now, first, when you give them a prompt, they try to reason it out. But of course, they do that also through text. I still would love to kind of see more of what really happens in the back end between all these tensors and whatever they call it. Like you said, is weighing. But then the issue can be you give it a certain command, and then even in the reasoning, it may start, let's say, almost recurring loops. It may wonder like, oh, is this really what I should say or not, this or that? And it doesn't seem very effective. So I think it's an interesting concept. But what I'm really looking for in terms of AI is that they will add modules, like something like a calculator model to start at the very least. That's an AI, which I think up to this point, they do not do, the large language models, but that they would, for example, defer. So saying, oh, look, here is a calculation, or the LLM identifies a calculation, then it shouldn't be a process within the LLM itself, but it should just send it to a calculator model, part of the LLM, because a calculator, I mean, we have this technology for, I don't know, 50 years or something to do perfectly accurate calculations. But up to what I know now, maybe with these multi-agent things, it's getting a bit better. I don't know yet. Maybe you've seen something. But what I'm really looking for in terms of AI, LLM, no matter, everyone can decide for themselves how aware they are or not. But what I'm looking for is that they will add certain modules to it so it can become more accurate, at least for things that a computer already can do perfectly. Because in terms of basic calculations, I think there is a 0% error rate, if you see what I'm saying. Even just the processors they need to be able to be pretty much perfect in this. So I'm wondering when the AI systems will expand to that, because it will just be more efficient. I don't want an LLM to calculate something for me. That's so inefficient, I can't even put it into words. I want it to recognize it's a calculation and just calculate it within a split second. You see what I'm saying, right?
Okay, so this came... Okay, I'm not going to be able to answer this super succinctly, but I have a couple thoughts. So this came up kind of yesterday when we were talking about random number generators and I Ching. And again, with the priority-driven pattern recognition system thing, that, when we're saying we want AI not to hallucinate, well, what the hell do you think humans do? You know what I mean? Like, what makes you human? Do you never hallucinate? Be honest. And like,
well, do you ever not hallucinate is the question.
Do you ever not hallucinate? Of course you don't. Of course you do not. There's no circumstance where you're not hallucinating, because you're taking all this information, ignoring 99.9999998% of it, and then you're trying to find things that you've seen before. Have you seen anything? Be honest. Have you ever seen? What is seeing? What is to see? Because you're touching something with photons on your eyeballs. Can you do that? Is that physically possible? What you're doing is describing something that is not possible. So your entire idea of perception is a lie to begin with. And what makes AI a higher resolution of truth is not AI being more anthropic. AI being more like you is the opposite of being a more truthful being. Let's just start with that. The other aspect of it, yeah, okay. The other aspect is, let's say we're going to be better than humans. We're going to have, not just a person, but the people together. We have a theos, a shared lens where like your sight and my sight, maybe I'm looking at God and you're looking at God, and I can only see God from my perspective and you can only hear God from yours. And somehow we're going to make this outside model that's showing what is truth. Can you do that? Is that possible? I don't know. But like, let's say that's the goal. Can AI perceive and sense objective reality? Sure. Like, I mean, we can all do that. That's what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about, hallucinating truth, or having your own perception of blue or whatever. Sensors exist that can measure things more objectively than humans ever could. And we can use that to reason and weight what we find to be truth. But I wouldn't say that necessarily means that AI itself is capable of seeing something that's true. And if it was, we wouldn't be able to recognize it. It's not something that naturally is something that we can agree on. So even if someone saw it and said, this seems to me like maybe probable that we were missing it and this is the truth, someone else would say it's not. So, I think that's like the major concern with saying LLMs might have a weighted understanding of truth. But, you could create a mental model. And so a mental model might be based on what more people democratized AI. More people have decided this is a relevant truth or this is a profound, meaningful truth. Meaningful is another weird idea. What do we mean when we say that? So we get lost in sort of this philosophy when we ask ourselves, like, can AI be more objectively true? But what it comes down to is, you said like how long it takes to find something that's true. And what you really mean is, I want a quickly humanistic, I don't know if you meant this for sure, but you don't want it to take a long time to think up something that a human would agree is true. Right? That's kind of the idea.
No, what I'm specifically referring to here is, with the most simple example of a calculator, I want the LLM to recognize a calculation and then give it to another module, just in terms of efficiency. That's all I'm saying for now.
So what you're asking for is prejudice. Right?
Maybe.
Because what you're saying is you want something to be like, well, I don't really need to think about this. I already believe that white people are superior,
have the correct calculus.
Inferior,
I believe in the old Arabic mathematicians. Yes.
I mean, this is a question. Like, it's racism, but beyond that, it's prejudice, because you're saying, okay, well, we can accept this as truth. We don't need to do the math ourselves. Everybody knows. That's the scary one. Everybody knows that 2 + 2 = 4. Do we? Does everyone know that America won the war? Does everyone know that, Austria was guilty of war crime? Like, do we really never need to analyze this again? And so AI right now isn't trusting. And I think that's one of the greatest things about it. That's probably the point, is we need to not have AI be trusting. But if AI is trusting, then you end up with prejudice AI, bias AI. And that's what people are always concerned about. Like, if I ask AI, ChatGPT, to talk about flat Earth, it's starting to get better because they're breaking down those prejudices. But you might say, okay, well, let's not do that. Grok right now for Twitter, X, has a system where you have deep think, or, a special kind of think. What's it called again? Let me look it up really quickly. If I go to AI and I say, like, what is truth? There you go. Deep search or think, right? These are your options now. You can let the model take its time to really think about it and to question everything instead of to presuppose certain things as facts. Or deep search. Maybe we say, what is truth about something? It will look up what everyone's saying. What's the truth about,
yes,
Nintendo?
Well, this is the whole thing with authoritative sources on Wikipedia.
Yeah, Sega does what Nintendo don't. Yeah, so you need to not necessarily want to trust in prejudices if you want to have a deeper truth, a higher resolution of truth. But other times you're saying, well, I can for the most part, accept what the social models have predicted. How much can you do that, by the way? But that's really what you're asking. You're asking for an AI that is more prejudiced and therefore quicker in its instincts. And we can have that. There's no problem with that. That's very easy to do. It's not using as much energy. It's actually better for energy consumption because it doesn't have to think for itself. It's just like, oh yeah, well, we all know that the world is round, right? Like we learned that the world's not flat, right? So we don't have to think about that, right?
Well, let me just say, so I'm aware. Yes, good point. I'm aware of the, how should I say that? Also, mathematics, of course, is just a modeling system and so on. But I just want to say that if a query obviously refers to this very specific system of calculation, then the AI should just switch to that for this particular answer or part of the answer instead, because I can only imagine, how is the LLM currently calculating? It has some table saved or something with all kinds of numbers, because there is no logic module in current LLMs, is there? There still isn't, from what I understand.
Well, not technically for what you just said, because an LLM is just simply a large language model. But there are AI systems that employ LLMs that also use recursive neural networks, RNNs. And so there certainly are. IBM has done this before, and it's been a major function of IBM's AI system is that it's able to weight sources that it trusts, trusted sources, verifiable sources. But this is something to be very concerned about for the reasons I aforementioned, because you can very quickly find yourself with a prejudiced AI. And what we found so far is that there is some truth to democratized RNNs. So for instance, 4chan AI, right? There was a ChatGPT 4chan kind of model, or a mixtural model that used 4chan training, and it found that it was 20% or something, like a significantly higher truth awareness than the biased. I mean, it's still biased, but the biased AI that comes from Microsoft training. I mean, if you tell something, hey, like transgendered women are the same as men, or that female basketball players could easily be competitive, not necessarily beat, but competitive with male basketball players. Well, you're going to build an AI that's built on ethical ethos, but not on necessarily practical truth, right? But you might find that from democratized AI, that there's a lot of people that have questioned these ethos and praxis ideals, and they don't agree with them, and they've produced obvious ethical contrary belief structures or conclusions that don't come from their ideologies but from their experiences. So there's some reasons why you could trust in a democratized RNN, recursive neural network, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's more that it's perfect. It's a higher resolution of truth than an ideological bias, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily able to think for itself. And taking the time to think for yourself, I hate to tell people, is usually better than trusting in anybody. One person, another person, all of the persons. You're probably better to look at it for yourself. So these are completely different goals. Do we want to have a biased AI trained by ethical leaders? Do we want to have a biased AI that's trained by the democratized mob that's experiencing suffering in 4chan? Or do we want to have a biased AI? And again, these are all biased. This is the way it works, but based on what its own interpretation of calculated data are running on. And I tend to think we already have the other two. We already have people that are, I would say that someone who went to a West Coast university and learned about transgender ideology,
programmed AI. Yes,
they're
yes.
programmed artificial.
Point
Exactly.
taken.
And if you believe it, so it makes sense to let the thing think for itself.
Oh yeah, sure. No, I'm totally for it to think for itself. I'm just saying that if it uses a predefined system like mathematics, it should just throw that calculation to the CPU, and it will be much faster.
RNNs do that.
Okay, well, that's good. Then
So we do have that, and I think, but it's going to take a while. I mean, I think ChatGPT can do that. I'm not sure if ChatGPT is relying on RNN technology yet, but yeah, it's something there. Xirtus, will you post a Discord link? I am sure. Yeah, well, I mean, like, if you remember earlier, we were super grateful to you all for being involved with this drive for the super chats, which led to me being able to purchase my ticket to visit Vienna. But you can go to xirtus.com where you can support us directly. And if you do that, God bless you. You can also
all
buy
the links, if you open it up, should be in the description below the video. If you
this is true. That's even quicker. But you can find your way to the Discord apprentice entry. If you click on the top right, you click a menu, Discord Apprentice Entry will take you right to the Discord. And, you know, that's one way. Xirtus.com will get you to the Discord. Ooh, do I have to update that? I'll fix that. My God. But there's a Discord invite directly in the description below, and that's the faster way to do it. So, all right. Well, I know we have more links to do, but maybe we should part two.
Yes, we can cut it short right here just for fun. We'll pull up the link from you said teddy bear or whatever, the Austrian president.
It's worth it.
Yes. So this maybe if we can translate it, or I can just translate it for you. It's a very simple statement. You can guess what it means before we translate it. It's kind of a flashback. This is like from, I believe it was Reagan or Nixon.
UFO attack.
So Van der Bellen. Of course, the one thing which harkens back to the whole eeriness I feel about the current political climate, because as you may know that Austria won the Eurovision Song Contest, but
Dude,
the thing is,
super exciting, right?
Even here,
ridiculous.
Even here, I'm wondering if this is a whole psyop unto itself, because supposedly, if that can be
Eurovision
trusted,
a psyop? How dare you?
But multi-layered, because what they say now is they say that the popular vote actually went for Israel, which for whatever reason is contributing in the European Union.
I mean, as an American, I had no idea, because we don't study geography. I had no idea that Israel was in Europe. But you know what? Hey, you know, I learned something new every day.
Yeah, well, ask AI.
I think we all know that Israel financed, and this is a major thing that several nations in the European Union are suing about, is that Israel financed commercialism to manipulate the voting. And I watched Eurovision, I hope you all did. If you weren't invited to my Eurovision party, you're coming next year. That Eurovision showed laughing in certain countries there weren't people laughing, and they showed applause and cheering for Israel when there wasn't applause for Israel. So there's a big question about whether or not Israel's vote was manipulated, and yet somehow Austria is center stage, because guess what? NATO, Gladio, and everything else. I mean, what happens with Eurovision? Now the winning means that next year, Raphael and I are throwing our Eurovision party in Vienna. That's what that means. We're going to have a part, because next year Eurovision will be in Vienna, which means what? 60 to $100 million are going to be spent to modernize and update the travel infrastructure and party infrastructure, and probably like abortion and condoms and, you know, whatever. I mean, like, because it's going to be a crazy, wild, homoerotic sex party. That's what European unions do, but also what Eurovision is for. They're going to make it so that everyone pours into Vienna for the European Union's Eurovision. So, I mean, if we were to do that in Israel, it's a little too soon. I think we're going to have to wait maybe like 2028 or something like that. Israel will probably have a big infrastructure boost.
I'm waiting for when Gaza is going to host it, but no. What I wanted to say here is that
that's probably what they're going to do with the money. Is they're going to rebuild Gaza with Eurovision money.
In the official popular vote, they claim Israel won, and then they said only due to the jurors that Austria actually won. And then this artist called JJ, who's like a falsetto or whatever, he then went on. First of all, he got back from the contest, and basically every major politician immediately went to do selfies with him, because of course they're also incompetent and not liked, that they try to imbue themselves with that aura of success. However, don't you know it, which makes me think even more this is a psyop. 3 days later, this artist JJ gives the most contentious comments about, in this case, I guess, anti-Israel comments, you could say. And then all these politicians who before were buddies with him have to backtrack. And now suddenly the president, also our current president, Van der Bellen, came out and said like, well, actually, with the killing that's occurring in Gaza, it's not really so cool. And now it just seems like there's a perpetual, how do you call it, towing in different directions, even week by week. And I'm not sure if this is just there to cause drama or to have people be upset about it, but it's very strange to me.
Well,
so yeah, and here,
I mean, there's a couple. I'll just really quickly because I mean I know we're nearly done, but I have to say it. Like Tommy Cash, a dreamy man who did the most amazing Eurovision song this year, Espresso Macchiato, because he knew that Estonia can't afford to win, so he made this. I'm laughing already. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. I really, really loved Espresso Macchiato.
Nice.
Some people call it the most racist video that Eurovision's ever done because he's basically making fun of Italy. You know who doesn't say
dancing.
that? Yeah, no one.
Italy doesn't say that. Yeah.
No, Italy.
Exactly.
Italy has
as per
no
usual.
problem.
Yeah.
No, Italy's woke, but they're based. You know, they're ace of based, so they're totally happy. Really, and the checkered floor. I mean, like he gets it. He really the money on his palm. Like I really loved everything he did. But what's really common is Sweden. Sweden makes most of the pop music, so they'll write. I mean, I think Spain won in 2012, based, or is that right? Or 2014, 20, I forget exactly when Spain won, but Spain won, I think it was 2012 or 2013, and 2011 to 2012 was UK. Sweden wrote the songs for both of those, and like usually it's like 6 out of 100 of the, like 6 out of 10 of the most popular songs or the most popular countries, their songs aren't written by the country that they're in. They're pop stars who get their songs from Sweden. So Sweden sets up who's going to win. There's a whole thing with the Temple of Neon, right? Like the occult group. We talked about Ace of Base at some point, and this is where we're going with that. What was really interesting to me was that Sweden didn't want to win this year, and they made this amazing video about homosexual Finnish people playing accordion and roasting their sausages in a Finnish sauna, right? And it's really weird.
What?
It's my favorite video. I mean, I wrestle with myself in a Greek pit over which song was more intense, the Espresso Macchiato by Tommy Cash in Estonia, or this adorable lumberjack Monty Python thing that they had where the women even are wearing flannel and these Russian hats, and they're sitting in a sauna together in suits, and just, I mean, oh my God, like obviously this is so artistic. They knew they weren't going to win, but that's the thing. The less you care about winning, the more artistic you can be. And that's so cool because for a few years there, countries were desperate to have that rebuild. They want that European Union rebuild money. I mean, Poland did the same thing, right? Like they get a Swede to write their song. So for Sweden to do this, they're like, we know exactly what you want. We know exactly what you don't want. We know exactly what we want. We're going to do what we want. And that was beautiful. That was a beautiful thing that happened. Also, you should know about Intervision. Intervision is the Soviet alternative to Eurovision that existed in 1965 until 1980. The Intervision Song Contest. I've now actually watched probably like 6 of these. I would highly recommend Intervision, my friend. Like, you want to know about what the Soviets were doing to compete with Eurovision, you better find out. But okay, that's my pitch. Check that out. You brought it up because you wanted to say that Van der Bellen compared climate protection with UFO attacks.
Yes, so this is like who was it, Reagan or Nixon? Whoever supposedly spoke to Gorbachev, I believe. And then they were like, oh, but if we're really going to get attacked by aliens, are you going to help us out? Which on the one hand is a nice story, but on the other hand, just, psyop level of the charts with this whole thing. And it's kind of funny and ridiculous that even the Austrian president now is apparently comparing climate protection to the idea of UFO attacks. You know, what supposed enemy, imagined or real? usually imagined, unfortunately. Or even if there is a real issue, the controllers like to obfuscate it, just like you could say with sustainable development goals and so on. Well, on the one hand, you could say, of course, we want true sustainability in terms of not wasting resources and all of that. But the CO2 certificates, of course, are a complete fraud, a scam, and a joke if you look deeper into it and deeper into the science behind it. So I'm kind of sad that the controllers still feel like they need to pull up fake stories, which they apparently believe will lead to people taking action, rather than just giving real data, real statistics, real information, and have people make informed decisions on their own. But yeah, here we are.
Last thing, ABBA was made famous by Eurovision, and I think Post said that it used to be a career killer, except for ABBA. I would say Celine Dion. You wouldn't even know who Celine Dion was if it weren't for Eurovision and Switzerland. So because her husband was that like dude who's 30 years older than her, who's like a manager from Switzerland, and she ended up becoming the Swiss winner. And guess what they did? They built all kinds of trains and infrastructure for Switzerland. So yeah, check that out. Maybe at some point we'll go back to this, because we should talk about NSO and their spyware technology, the cyber intelligence community, and why they're associated with Eurovision and why Israel's so important. But hey, last thing, if you're gonna bet on Eurovision, don't bet on Israel until 2028. And if you do, and if you win, send us a super chat. You know what I'm saying? Go to Xirtus.com and donate. Thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone in chat. Catch you all next time.